ILTV on the hour. We're live from Israel, bringing you the biggest headlines of the region. It's currently 7 a.m. in New York and 2 p.m. here in Israel. I'm Devo Klein, and here is your roundup of all of the latest developments that are coming out of Israel. Trump told reporters in a press conference in the White House that the world leaders set to serve on the Gaza Board of Peace will be announced early next year. Trump added that a variety of leaders from different nations have expressed a desire to take part in the board. Take a listen.
The Gaza plan, when do you expect to announce the members of the Board of Peace, the leadership of that?
Well, we'll do it early next year. And the Board of Peace are it'll be one of the most legendary boards ever. Everybody wants to be on it. It's mostly going to be, I guess, we weren't thinking about it that way, but they want to all do it. Basically, it'll be the heads of the most important countries.
Mr. President.
They all want to be on. It wasn't really planned. We thought we were going to get very distinguished people that do that kind of thing for a living. But really, it looks like it's turning out to be they want to be on the heads, the kings and the presidents, prime ministers. They all want to be on the Board of Peace.
And visiting in Israel to advance Trump's 20-point Gaza plan, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Mike Waltz warned that allowing Hamas to survive would be, quote, insanity. Waltz was a key figure in pushing Trump's Gaza plan to be approved by the UN Security Council, and he is now in Israel to follow up on the ground. Speaking alongside President Isaac Herzog, Waltz said this.
What has been clear, and I want to be clear, is Hamas has to go. And the President Trump has been clear, that's going to happen the easy way or the hard way. But there will not be any more Hamas. And what we cannot do, what we're determined to avoid, is what I call the definition of insanity. Somehow Hamas is allowed to survive, they rebuild, the international community pours billions into reconstruction, Hamas attacks again, and Israel has no choice but to respond, and here we are in this cycle of insanity. The president, his team's determined to break that, and one of the many reasons I'm here is to see that implemented.
And joining me now to discuss all of these developments is Ambassador Danny Ayalon, chairman of Silver Road Capital Group. Ambassador Ayalon, thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure, Devo.
So what is your analysis of this Board of Peace? Trump is saying that, princes and prime ministers want to join. So who is he likely talking about, and what do we know so far?
Well, this is quite a departure from, let's say, his own maybe characteristic conduct and maybe his initial aim. He likes to take decisions unilaterally, somewhat arbitrarily. And if he brings more leaders on board, that, of course, would be very difficult. On the other hand, if you have too many leaders and heads of states, it can become a cacophonic diplomacy, or almost like the General Assembly of the United Nations. So I think it's yet to be seen how this board will function. And of course, from Israel's point of view, there are some that will not be in our favor. Let's say Erdogan, if the Turkish leader is joining in, that won't be a good sign for us. If the Qatari leader will join in, not so good. So I think it's still unfolding. We have to wait and see, and not pass a judgment at that point.
I actually want to expand on something that you just mentioned with Turkey and Qatar. As we know, Trump and Netanyahu are expected to meet on December 29th in Mar-a-Lago. That's before the so-called announcement of the Board of Peace, as Trump says it will be early next year. But I wanted to ask, does Jerusalem have any, veto power in this context, as they did, for example, with the ISF, saying Turkey will not participate? Or is Washington just in full control of this Board of Peace and Israel just has to sit and idly watch by?
Well, Devo, Israel doesn't have a veto power. I don't think anyone has a veto power except the United States, except President Trump. And from, let's say, the recent developments in the last 2-3 months, we see that whatever Trump sets up to get, he gets it. So I think the Israeli challenge would be to make sure that he stays on course. And you have just, Divo, you have just shown Mike Waltz, the American ambassador to the UN, and he said Hamas has to go. So this is very important because for Israel to move from the first phase of the Trump plan, where we are now in, to the second one, we have to demilitarize Hamas and disarm Hamas. And of course, we are still in phase one, so long as we did not get the last hostage that is still in Gaza.
Right. I actually wanted to ask you about that as well, about this phase two. As you mentioned, Mike Waltz, who he helped push this plan. He helped pass at the UN vote. He's reaffirming that here in Israel, the disarmament of Hamas. But we still don't have a stabilization force. We don't have really any progress in dismantling Hamas effectively. What's the timeline looking like? And, can you see this plan, this phase two, being executed properly? This is a question I have to say that not many people have really been able to answer. We're kind of just waiting. Is that your take?
Absolutely. And there is no definite deadlines set. So things are still unfolding, and it's touch and go. For Israel, what is the most important thing is that the plan will be adhered to. That means we don't move ahead without getting our last hostage, Mr. Gwili, Ran Gwili, which unfortunately, will receive his body. So this is number one of our priorities. And the second one, of course, is once we move to a second phase, it has to be a robust force on the ground that can take on Hamas and disarm Hamas. And at that point, I am not sure that I can point out to any military force that will do it except from Israel. Any force under the umbrella of some kind of international committee, or even the board of peace that Trump suggests, I don't think that they will have the wherewithal to take Hamas on. So maybe we should somehow fine-tune the planning and make sure that if Hamas doesn't disarm, and we can quote the president himself and also his envoy to the UN, Mike Waltz, which is currently here in Israel, who said they can do it in good terms or bad terms, but they have to disarm.
Right. And now I want to just go back to this Board of Peace real quickly and discuss a development that came out earlier where Tony Blair has withdrawn from his role. He was meant to be leading this board, and he has now withdrawn from this role. And there are also new reports saying that President Trump is likely to elect an American official to head this board. What do you think? What's your analysis of this? And do you think that these two developments are related to each other? Do you think that Trump's announcement saying, we're going to announce the peace of board members early next year has anything to do with Tony Blair's leaving?
Yes, they definitely are related, because if Blair cannot be the de facto director of Gaza, they have to find somebody else. Of course, it's better to have American than anyone else. But it's unfortunate because Blair really has the experience, he has the contacts, he knows very well the region, he knows very well Gaza. And my take is that he elected, I would say, or he was compelled to step down because of some Arab objection.
Interesting. That's an interesting take there. I do want to move on now to a slightly different topic. I just wanted to get this question while I have you on. We are seemingly on the brink of another potential humanitarian crisis in Gaza, as many of its residents, they remain in tents that are currently, as we speak, being battered with rain as this storm Byron takes over Israel. Flooding has already reportedly begun in many areas in the enclave. Do you expect Israel to come under fire for this anytime soon?
Well, I wouldn't put it past all those, I would say, almost anti-Semitic rhetoric, certainly anti-Israel rhetoric from the international community, also hinging on the lies of Hamas, whether about genocide or so-called starvation. So yes, I think that we should brace ourselves for more political attacks, certainly from anti-Israel countries. Some of them are unfortunately European countries like Spain or Ireland. But this is something that we will have to just bite the bullet and continue to do what we need to do for our security and for our national interest, and as much as we can also help just from a humanitarian point of view, everything that we can do to alleviate the plight of the Gazan people. I think Israel is willing to do that.
Right, but without this, international stabilization force, with really no one in Gaza right now, other than, Israel beyond the yellow line, which we control, and then on the other side, Hamas, as it stands, who can help us enforce this? I mean, it seems that every time we bring in humanitarian aid and assistance to the Gazans, it gets usurped, it gets taken over by Hamas, and it just ends up helping them. Are we going to be in a similar situation with this flooding?
That could easily be the case. For instance, if we send them some makeshift housing, Hamas can easily take it, certainly in the area that he controls, which is the western part of Gaza. We have seen photos of thousands of babies' food that they were taking and hiding just to support their lie that there is a starvation in Gaza. So everything has to be done in a very careful way, understanding that Hamas is a ruthless, barbaric terrorist organization that will not stop at anything, including starving their own people and children, using them as human shields, and certainly they have no regards for human lives.
Absolutely. It's definitely tough, especially those images that you're seeing on the screens. But as most things when it comes to Gaza, only time will tell, and it's just a matter of waiting. Ambassador Ayalon, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show and giving us your insights today.
My pleasure.
And really quickly, before word from our partners at Am Yisrael Chai.
Your dream apartment in the holiest city in the world is just a click away. Am Yisrael Chai, the lifeline for so many chesed operations in Israel, is holding their annual Dream Raffle, where one ticket only can buy you a luxurious apartment in the heart of Jerusalem. Don't win the apartment? No problem. All raffle proceeds from all tickets go directly to one of the incredible organizations that Am Yisrael Chai supports. And for the first time ever, the apartment is fully furnished. Don't miss this incredible opportunity to actively donate to Israel's functionality and, on the way, potentially score big and win the apartment of a lifetime. Scan the QR code now to join.
And in different news, Storm Byron has finally reached Israel. After mass flood and weather warnings by both municipal and security figures, Israel is bracing for the storm that has battered Cyprus and Greece. Winds are said to reach up to 90 kilometers per hour, and major flooding is expected as Israel's drainage system struggles to keep up with the harsh downpour. Israel's south suffers the most flooding with Arava streams and poor drainage infrastructure. The IDF has already sent home IDF troops that are stationed at bases in southern Israel to allow for them to have a safe travel to their home for the weekend. And joining me now to discuss the readiness of Israeli police and authorities during Storm Byron is Master Sergeant Dean Elston, the international spokesperson for the Israeli police. Dean, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you guys for having me.
So how is the Israel police preparing for this storm, and what are the common dangers that people could find themselves in?
Well, I can tell you, we've been meticulously planning for this storm over the last few days. When we saw it coming up on the maps, we're working closely with the relevant authorities. And this is something that we train for year round. the Israel police has rescue units that specialize in rescuing underwater people who went hiking or cars that flipped over. These are things that we plan for. But before we get into that, I do want to say a big thank you to the Israel public who's been listening to the statements of the Israel police, asking them to take precautions, to not be out on the roads if they don't need to be on the roads, because it is a very dangerous time. The rain, as you can see from the last few days, has been trickling in, and we're expecting to have the more severe part of this storm come in the next coming hours into the night.
Mm-hmm. I actually want to address what you said, that the Israeli public is, taking into account all of the necessary precautions. But we just got a report that earlier today, a 53-year-old man was found dead in his apartment in Netanya with signs of hypothermia. Now, that's all the information that we have. It's currently unclear if this was related specifically to the storm and the cause. But is this an event that the police recognizes at this point? And what are the regulations? I mean, what can Israelis do to better prepare for the storm, even if they're staying at home?
I'm not going to get into specific cases before we have all the information, especially ongoing cases like this one. But I can tell you that the Israel public, like I said before, if they don't need to be out on the road, they shouldn't be out on the road. Now, if they do find themselves driving, they need to slow down. They need to create distance between them and the drivers that are in front of them. Take your time driving. It's not a rush. And before you get out on the road, even check your lights, check your brakes, make sure that your car is good to go. Charge your phone so that in the event that you get stuck out on the road, you can pull over to a safe area, put your hazard lights on, and call or 100 so that the Israel police can come and get you. The remaining public can call 110 for information on roads that might be blocked. Use GPS like Waze, but of course, if you're using Waze and you're driving down a road where you see it's flooded, don't test your luck. Don't try to drive through these big puddles. It can ruin your car. It can flood your car. You can get stuck. We've already seen a few incidents like this throughout Israel where people are driving through large puddles. We want you to use common sense and to use caution. Your safety is the utmost of importance to us.
Mm-hmm. And Mara is also already reporting that quite a few cars have been reported stuck in the Shvela, which is the central Israel area. And as you mentioned, these all these tips that you're suggesting, they're quite small, but they're life saving. Any Israeli could find themselves in the situation, and when they're equipped with this information, they can actually tread forward carefully. I mean, my drive into work today was absolutely treacherous. The roads are completely flooded. And, I'm actually curious, in your opinion, Dean, as much as you can, why do you think the streets are flooding so easily? Is it a problem with the infrastructure at this point, or is it just a quantity issue of just too much rain?
I can't speak to the infrastructure. That's more of a government agency that's separate from the Israel police who can talk about infrastructure. But what I can talk about is the readiness and preparedness of the police. We know that this is an issue, and we're planning accordingly. That means that our patrol officers are out in the streets in affected areas. We have our rescue units on standby and our traffic division, who is on high alert. We're working together with the Ayalon and Kvish 6, both highway systems, who monitor these roadways. So that way, if we see congestion piling up, if we see an incident that might cause danger, we can be proactive in trying to mitigate the damage or mitigate it at all, if possible.
As you say, the storm should be picking up speed a little bit, more tonight. Have there been any reports or any situations only in the last day, or not yet?
Listen, we're getting reports coming in. I'm sure that you're aware of it, of different scenarios and different car accidents taking place. This is to be expected when the roads become very wet. Cars hydroplane. A lot of drivers lose control of their vehicles, or like we spoke about earlier, they take unnecessary risks, like going through tunnels. You have individuals who like to go hiking or take advantage of the mud, and then their Jeeps get stuck, and our tractor units or our rescue units have to go out to them. We're asking the public to really work with us. Up until now, the majority of the public has been listening. We see a lot of people working from home today. I can tell you a lot of people have mentioned this, and we've seen it ourselves, that the traffic on the streets have been less. I don't know what it's going to entail on the congestion on the way home from work today, but I can tell you so far, the public has been listening. We ask them to keep listening. And for the Israeli public who reads Hebrew, we have a Telegram channel, a WhatsApp channel, and a Twitter that's constantly putting out reports such as closed roads and important information as such.
Absolutely. This is really life-saving work that you guys are doing. Dean Elston, thank you so much for coming on the show today and giving us this crucial, crucial information. Thanks.
Thank you.
And moving on now to Unraveling UNRWA, one of the most informative documentaries you will ever see. The 2025 winner of the Haifa International Film Festival Investigative Documentary Award, Unraveling UNRWA exposes the dark truths behind the so-called humanitarian relief organization. But instead of me breaking down the importance of this documentary, I am honored to welcome to the show the director of the film, Duki Dror. Duki, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so as a journalist, saying this, your documentary is so important for people to watch. Me personally, the trailer gave me chills, really, as this whole story about UNRWA was really just unfolding under our noses this entire time. Could you just briefly explain what you cover in your documentary for those who maybe haven't seen the trailer?
Well, the story of UNRWA is like an onion. You just peel one layer and you have another layer that leads to another layer. But I didn't know much about UNRWA before October 7th. And, when allegations started to come up that UNRWA employees were part of the massacre, then I was beginning to ask questions, and I remembered a book that I read a few years back called "The War of Return," and it is talking about how the ethos of the Palestinian return of the refugees was supported, was pushed by this agency, UNRWA. And when you look at what happened on October 7th, you understand that this was a manifestation of this idea, of this ethos of return. And then I went back and I read it again. I met the people who wrote it and also started the investigation. And I realized how these happened step by step, how UNRWA basically became the stumblestone, the way that the conflict is perpetuated. So not only UNRWA employees were part of the massacre in October 7th, but also even more than that, it was the agency, the international arm of the international community who perpetuated this idea of refugees, of 700,000 refugees, Arab refugees from the 1948 war. So in a way, it was keeping the war of 1948 unresolved until today. I can hear you.
And especially when you compare the numbers of like the growth of the Palestinian population and the fact that, as you rightfully say, they have been labeled as refugees for so long. They are one of the longest standing groups of refugees. And it's such an important investigation to uncover that the call is coming from within the house, as we say. But I want to also ask you, what inspired you to go ahead with such a bold move? You mentioned October 7th, but this investigation is just so much bigger than October 7th. What inspired you to embark on this project?
I always try to look for stories that are, nobody touched. And I think UNRWA was untouched in a way, investigatively in documentary. And I think that is an amazing story about how this agency was continued to exist, even though it was actually was meant to stay for 3 years only. It is and still is. It was and still is a temporary agency that was supposed to be ending its job after 3 years, and every 3 years it is renewing the UN renewing its mandate. Last Friday, it renewed again for 3 more years. So when it's something like an anomaly like this, where the international community puts so much money on an organization, on an agency that really harm both the Palestinians in a way, because if you have something like UNRWA, they say to the Palestinians, you really don't have to take care of themselves because we, the international community, will do that for you. So and then you continue that and until today, where it still exists.
Mm-hmm. And what was your intention with this documentary, the message that you were trying to share? I mean, it's not, entirely playful in the way that, like, say, a nature documentary would be. It's an investigative, and it's groundbreaking. What did you hope to tell your viewers with Unraveling UNRWA?
Well, I wanted to show the facts, because basically keeping and showing the facts on how this agency is taking international money from donating states and countries and using it to perpetuate the conflict in perpetuating the idea of the ethos of return. And I'm not even speaking, or maybe we should speak also about UNRWA schools, because they're taking over also the schools, right, where there's the letters UN that are on the Palestinian schools, where they have mostly in Gaza schools. Most of the Gaza schools have the UNRWA schools. They are UNRWA schools, and they teach teaching that are definitely inflammatory, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel. If it only was a Hamas schools, then it's even better, because you don't have this stamp of the international community, the UN letters that says what we teach at this school is okay. And that's the problem. And the world needs to understand that when they do have this stamp of UN, of the international community, at schools where they teach inflammatory material against Jews, against Israel, that are radicalizing generation after generation of people in Gaza and Palestinians in general, that they can take back their, what they see as their land that, they lost in 1948 in the war, if they were left mostly these villages, and they now, after 80 years, wants to go back, and they think they have the right to kick out the Jews from there. So that's what the international community is doing. And that's what I want the viewers, especially the international viewers, to understand. That's what your taxpayers' money does.
Absolutely. And these people, they have the right to know. They've been sheltered from this information. I mean, all of the links, the UNRWA links to Hamas and to terror, we see the photos of the UNRWA bags, lining the tunnels of Hamas. And like you say, Hamas infiltrating their schooling system and indoctrinating to hate. They deserve to know. And I think this documentary is so important and so informative. So, Dukidol, I want to thank you also for producing the documentary, but also for coming onto the show and showing us what it's about and explaining your message. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much.
And just before we wrap up, we have brand new images of the storm Byron, which is currently sweeping through Israel. Flooding has been reported in multiple streets across the country. Residents are instructed, as the police say, to keep safe and stay at home if possible. And that is a wrap for this edition of ILTV on the Hour. Scan the QR code for all of the latest updates. I'm Devo Klein, and thank you so much for watching.
Welcome to ILTV Security Brief. I'm Khaled Ben David. Each week, we focus on the latest developments in security and defense relating to Israel and the Middle East, impacting on this region and beyond. And we start with our top items of the past week. U.S. officials say the multinational International Stabilization Force will deploy in Gaza early next year. This ahead of the meeting in Washington in late December between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, in which they are to finalize plans for phase 2 of the peace agreement. Meanwhile, Hamas leaders give mixed signals whether they will agree to disarming as the deal requires. Prime Minister Netanyahu appoints his military secretary, Major General Roman Goffman, as the new head of the Mossad intelligence agency, replacing the outgoing David Barnea. Goffman has an extensive security background, including fighting terrorists during the October 7th attack, but no official intelligence experience. An IDF airstrike destroys a Hezbollah military compound in South Lebanon, used by its Radwan force for training and preparation to carry out terror activities against Israel. The IDF says the compound was in violation of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and the Lebanese government. In a combined security operation, the IDF, Shin Bet, and Israel police busted a terrorist cell in the Tulkarem area, responsible for several attacks aimed at Israeli forces in Judea and Samaria. Among the weapons seized are 3 rockets the terrorists were planning to fire inside Israel. And now our big story. Prime Minister Netanyahu will travel to Washington at the end of December for what is shaping up to be a fateful meeting on the future of Gaza. The U.S. is looking for Israel to sign off on the second phase of the peace agreement. But crucial questions remain over its implementation. More in this report from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
With the remains of only one hostage still in Gaza, the first phase of the U.S.-brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is nearly complete after 2 months of delays and accusations on both sides. A Hamas official says the Gaza ceasefire cannot move on to its second phase as long as Israeli violations continue, calling on mediators to pressure Israel to adhere to the agreement. The second phase would include the deployment of an international force and the disarmament of Hamas. It's meant to begin only after Hamas completes the return of all hostages and hostage bodies. The group still holds the body of one hostage, Ran Gvili, claiming it has been unable to locate him. Israel has carried out strikes across Gaza, which it says were in retaliation for attacks on troops manning the Yellow Line, where the IDF pulled back at the start of the truce. The focus shifts to the far more complex second phase of President Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan, approved by the UN Security Council. If it succeeds, it could end Hamas rule, rebuild and demilitarize Gaza under international supervision, normalize Israel-Arab ties, and create a possible path toward Palestinian statehood. But the pitfalls are significant. The plan calls for an international stabilization force to deploy in Gaza and train Palestinian police. Several countries have expressed interest, but none have committed, and Israel insists Turkey be excluded. U.S. officials say boots on the ground could come in early 2026, but key questions remain about command and powers remaining unresolved. The second element is Trump's Board of Peace, which he will personally head, overseeing a Palestinian technocratic committee to run Gaza. Members have not been announced, and Israel opposes any figures linked to Hamas or the Palestinian Authority, making selection highly problematic. On reconstruction, Gaza's damage is estimated by the UN at $70 billion. Donor states are expected to gather in Egypt, but funding and agreement on how to spend it remain uncertain. The most contentious issue is Hamas disarmament. The ceasefire requires the group to surrender all weapons. Hamas says it will not disarm, though it has floated freezing its arsenal for several years. Failure to disarm could trigger new clashes with Israel or with international forces. The plan also envisions Israeli withdrawals. Currently, Israel controls over half of Gaza. Further pullouts depend on security milestones, but no timetable exists. Israeli military chief Eyal Zamir has called the current Yellow Line a new border and a vital defensive belt. And finally, Trump's plan requires deep reforms in the Palestinian Authority to create a credible pathway to statehood. Israel rejects a Palestinian state and doubts the PA can reform itself without political horizons, Palestinian support for the plan, may collapse. With Netanyahu expected at the White House this month, diplomats say the ceasefire is at a critical juncture, with the entire peace roadmap hinging on whether the second phase can actually begin.
Joining us now in studio is someone who certainly knows more than most the challenges that Phase 2 will face in Gaza. Reserves IDF Colonel Grisha Yakubovich. He's the former commander of Kogat, the coordinator of government activities in the Palestinian territories. Grisha, thank you for joining us on Security Brief.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about this Phase 2. Before looking at the big picture, let's break it down a bit. Let's start with this ISF, this stabilization force that it looks like President Trump really wants to get going as soon as next month. How likely is that? What should its job, its function be? There are some who say it should be patrolling this yellow line between the area controlled by Hamas and the IDF, or is that just a recipe for more problems?
You know, the Chief of Staff just declared, I think 2 days ago, that the new borders of the Gaza Strip will be the yellow line.
Right.
Surprise, the UN automatically condemned this declaration. And I think a few minutes after that, Hamas did the same thing. It looks like there's a full coordination between the UN and the Hamas spokesman. But it's more than that, okay? The yellow line, is that really something that the Gazans will be able to deal with this reality? How many people live in Gaza? You know, some say 2.3. I think it's a lie. I would estimate not more than 1.8. Why the numbers are so big? Because, you know, somebody sends aid. So if the numbers are bigger than the actual numbers, you get more and you can actually sell it. But there is a water crisis, sewage crisis, energy crisis, and natural growth of the people of Gaza. And the borders in the yellow line will not be enough. Let's confess that. So what is really the solution? Will that be actually Phase 2? I'm not so sure. I think it's part of something way, way bigger.
Okay.
It's about all the understandings in the, I would say, new Middle East. I don't believe in this cliche, okay, the new Middle East. But let's say that we all see the new plan of the new Middle East. The obstacle to implement this big plan, it means Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, New Syria, if we can call it New Syria, is actually to find a way to create a solution that will satisfy all the possible allies in the Gaza Strip. And I think that one of the obstacles to normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia is actually the conflict between Israel, I would not say with the Palestinian Authority, okay, with the Palestinians, but also but with Gaza and Hamas. So it looks like, to me at least, knowing the reality in Gaza, you know, I'm in touch with people in Gaza. I'm talking to them. This reality in Gaza, staying in the borders of the yellow line, with the crisis there, okay, it will take them at least 10 to 15 years, to solve the problems there.
Sure.
So, Stage 2, for me, as I see it, it's some sort of creating a reality that all the future allies will be able to accept, but it will not provide a solution to the people. Gaza, the Gaza Strip, is not a place that Gazans can actually live there for the following 10 years. Let's be realistic. You know, only since the beginning of the ceasefire, something like 30,000 trucks were sent to Gaza as aid. If you just calculate the amount of people, according to the amount of aid that they got, it's already too much. Something is going on there. It's not. It seems like, to me at least, that somebody, or there's a big plan that everybody wants that Gaza will be in a certain situation that everybody will be able to move to the next stage. So Stage 2, I think, to me, it looks that it is not realistic. I don't see Hamas agreeing or accepting the conditions.
Right, disarming, especially giving up its weapons.
Yes, there is a new, I would say, compromise that they will send the heavy weapons to Egypt. This is not a new idea. This is something that we offered long time ago after Protective Act 2014, and of course they denied it. And I don't see them giving up on their weapons, because the only thing that is about to happen in the Palestinian society, future state, if I may say so, is not a possible, but an inevitable war between the Palestinian fractions between themselves, and it will happen after Mahmoud Abbas, the current president, will leave us.
Right.
You know, he's already 88, 89. Right. And the only way that I will see them giving their weapons in a certain way is to the Palestinian state. And that is exactly what they are declaring. We will give the weapons to the Palestinian state. It means we, Hamas, are part of this state. And if we, Hamas, are part of this state and we hold and we keep the weapons, it means we won. It's a victory in the eyes of the beholder. This is how they see this current war between us and them, that they won.
Well, you're looking at the long picture, but in the meantime, Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to be in Washington at the end of this month. He's going to be facing some immediate questions asked by President Trump, whether Israel will accept some of these countries in the ISF, like Turkey, the role of Turkey. And it seems like President Trump has not given up on them as an active partner, which is problematic. The so-called Palestinian administration with technocrats supposedly not connected with the PA on Hamas. How should the Prime Minister respond to those questions? What are the red lines he's got to be setting now ahead of that meeting?
Well, first of all, I'm sure that Prime Minister Netanyahu will find the right answers. I believe that even President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu are aware to the contradiction in this current reality and the problems in this, I would say, solutions that is offered by, I would say, Qatar and Turkey. I believe that the yellow line, or this declaration of the new border of Gaza, this yellow line, is part of the solution. It's a buffer zone between the yellow line and the fence.
Right.
And this is a security barrier that he will insist that Israel will hold it.
Right.
And if not, at least the yellow line will be held by this new, I would say, the countries that will participate.
In the ISF.
In the ISF that will participate. I'm not sure that everybody will do that because Hamas is also
right. I should note Indonesia is the only country that actually has given some kind, even mentioned the number of.
Indonesia is a good country as long as it's not Turkey and Qatar.
Right.
Indonesia is way better than that. You know, if you just look at Turkey, they already sent their peace troops to some places around the world and they stay there.
Right.
Or actually for the last 30 or 40 years. So it's going to be hard, and I think that what is about to happen in this meeting between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump is how they will announce about the plan and how it will look like in a wording that all parties will be able to accept it.
Right.
Because we all understand that this reality that Hamas are still on their legs in the Gaza Strip, it's a bad reality.
Right.
It's a bad reality.
Well, let me ask you, because one alternative to Hamas rule in Gaza that's been suggested may be these local militias that are opposed to the terror group, some which have been supported even on by the IDF. Now, the biggest of these militias, which is the Rafah-based Popular Forces, did suffer a setback last week when its leader, Yasser Abu Shabab, was killed in fighting. But other militia leaders say they are undeterred in their fight against Hamas.
نوجه رسالتنا حماس الطلقة الجاية عليكم الطلقة الجاية على حماس
وضع أفضل ما بعد وقف إطلاق النار لأنه حماس كانت تدعي أنه إحنا ميليشيات أو عصابات تعمل مع الجيش الإسرائيلي أثناء الحرب. اليوم إحنا بنقول لا، إحنا مش ميليشيات، إحنا قوة عسكرية متواجدة على الأرض. إحنا مش ميليشيات، إحنا الإدارة، إحنا اليوم جايين والناس شافتنا، إحنا ما هربنا مع الجيش ولا رجعنا مع الدبابات، إحنا متواجدين من أجل الناس، من أجل إنشاء غزة الجديدة.
Of course, Chris, you dealt with such people with Kogat. Let me ask you, is this an alternative? Realistically, are there enough of these type of individuals? Are some people ask, can they be trusted to go along with the creating a de-radicalized Gaza? What's your feeling?
I will say two things, okay, with contradiction between themselves. One, we can trust nobody.
Okay.
Okay, because I have my personal experience with Palestinians during my years of career, and I saw people that I considered as friends,
right,
helping to others to kill soldiers.
Okay.
So I trust nobody.
Fair enough.
So for now, those three militias, the guy that we just saw is from Khan Yunis, Al Astal. I know the family. It's a very strong Hamula. From Rafah, it's not Abu Shabab because he was killed by a Bedouin, but it's Deheni now, his deputy. And we have in the north in Bet Lahia, it's three militias.
Right.
That are very important because it's the only thing that challenges Hamas.
Right.
Hamas are not challenged by the IDF. Hamas will not be challenged by any other troops with boots on the ground. The only thing that will challenge Hamas are actually groups, local groups of Palestinians from Gaza.
Such as we just saw.
Such as we just saw. By the way, a mistake that Israel did from the beginning of the war is actually that Israel could support such groups with the PA, without the PA. Okay, we could do things. And this is something that could challenge Hamas way, way, way more than all those 2 years of fighting. So yes, we should support them. As Israel, we should support those militias. We should support Palestinians, local powers, local communities, local groups, whatever, because this is what Hamas is so afraid of. The moment we will withdraw from the yellow line, they will be all eliminated. So one of the things that we need to understand is what will be the solutions to those three militias that are growing as day goes by if we will implement the plan in Gaza, how to make sure that those militias will stay strong as they are and that they will continue challenging Hamas.
Now, another group that you dealt with Kogat, which I'm sure you also don't trust, UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency, who have been charged, oversaw education in Gaza. One of the things Prime Minister Netanyahu talked about this week was not just the disarming of Hamas, but the de-radicalization of Gaza. We saw the Israeli government take some action against the UNRWA compound there in Jerusalem this week. But the question is there some kind of alternative framework? Because it does seem that, in a sense, it's kind of drifting back to the same U.S. agencies that Israel has already said were compromised by the collaboration with Hamas.
For me, knowing well UNRWA, working for years with this agency, since June 2007, since that coup in Gaza, that Hamas conquered Gaza from the unity government, UNRWA is Hamas, Hamas is UNRWA. Simple as it is. Because the foreign employees that worked at UNRWA, the moment Hamas took over the Gaza Strip, they actually left UNRWA. And UNRWA is a UN, some sort of a UN organization. It's not really UN. If you dive into the details, they only get the budget from there. But Hamas just took over also on UNRWA. There was some disagreements between them and the PA because they wanted Mahmoud Abbas to accept the Hamas officials as part of the PA, so the salaries will be paid from the taxes that we collect according to Oslo. And Mahmoud Abbas said no to that. So one of the solutions was, actually two solutions. One is the $30 million that came from Qatar on a monthly base. So actually they paid the salaries to those Hamas officials from those money. And two is actually to appoint Hamas employees into UNRWA, so they will actually work as teachers or aid or social workers or whatever, and actually get the salaries from a UN organization. So without having somebody there in Gaza, boots on the ground from the UN as inspectors,
right?
It's actually you gave the cat
Right.
to
guard the mouse.
To guard the mouse or to guard the milk. Or whatever.
Right.
So actually, UNRWA has become one of Hamas' assets as a tool in their hands to send aid to refugees, to give aid, to get donations, and to sell it in the black market. Actually, they are making an income, a huge income, by the way, into their pockets by using this aid to its jobs. To actually, we saw UNRWA officials part of the invasion on October 7th.
Right, sure.
We saw that. It's actually Hamas terrorists, daytime acting as teachers and nighttime as terrorists, or I don't know, at the weekends or whatever. I think it's about time, that we all cancel this organization. It must be, I would say, deleted from the Palestinian map. And I have no problem helping those people, those poor people who need the aid, but let's give the aid to the ones who should provide the aid with the responsibility.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I mean. Without these flags of UN having or enjoying from this immunity.
But we'll have to leave it at that, Grisha Yakubovich. Thank you for joining us on ILTV Security Brief. And now a final word. In 1996, then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appointed Major General Danny Yatom as the new head of the Mossad. Despite the fact that the career soldier had no experience in intelligence work, but Netanyahu believed the Mossad would benefit from having an outsider lead it, and that his former comrade in the IDF's elite Sayeret Matkal Commander Unit would bring a new spirit of daring to the espionage agency. Unfortunately, the experiment did not end well. In 1998, 2 Mossad agents were captured by Jordan after the failed assassination attempt of Hamas leader Khalid Mashal, an operation that was approved by Yatom. In the ensuing scandal, he was forced to resign, and Netanyahu appointed Mossad veteran Ephraim Halevi to replace him and clean up the mess. Now, once again, Netanyahu has chosen another outsider without intelligence experience to lead the Mossad, his former military secretary, Major General Roman Goffman. It's reasonable for the prime minister to appoint someone to such a sensitive position he feels he can personally trust, and Goffman is viewed as a daring officer who performed heroically during the October 7th attack, wounded during a firefight with Hamas terrorists. Nor is it unprecedented for a Mossad chief to come from the ranks of the IDF, and some have proven to have been exceptional leaders of the agency. But the 2 most recent Mossad chiefs, Yossi Cohen and outgoing head David Barnea, were espionage veterans who are credited with leading the agency to some of its most impressive achievements, especially its operations against Hezbollah and Iran over the past 2 years. And Goffman also comes with some liabilities. While serving as a division commander, he was reportedly part of an ill-advised operation to disseminate disinformation to enemy forces by leaking it to a 17-year-old blogger who was unaware he was being used as part of an influence campaign, and as a result found himself the target of a Shin Bet investigation. And while Goffman speaks fluent Russian that will help him in dealing with Moscow, his English is said to be limited, which may prevent him from carrying out some of the secret diplomatic duties a Mossad head is often called on to handle. So the choice of Goffman to lead the Mossad can be said to be something of a gamble at a crucial time for Israel's security, when key decisions will have to be made regarding Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, and Iran in the coming months, even the coming weeks. Now, that gamble may pay off, as it did with Ariel Sharon's choice of Meir Dagan, who imbued the Mossad with a fighting spirit, or it may prove to be a mistake, as Netanyahu's selection of Danny Yatom turned out to be. The Mossad and Israel can ill afford to make any serious intelligence missteps in the years ahead. So let us hope that Roman Goffman proves he can measure up to the job of leading what many consider to be, pound for pound, the world's greatest intelligence agency. Thank you for watching ILTV Security Brief.
And today, we once again have the pleasure of hearing from Yael Eckstein, president of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, as she brings us the latest highlights and inspiring updates from the fellowship's ongoing work.
Shalom, my friends from here in Israel. I'm Yael Eckstein, and here are 2 fellowship projects that you should know about this week. Number 1, Tomer and Dolev are new parents, and their baby came in a very unexpected way. They live in a small apartment right outside of Jerusalem, and at 25 weeks, suddenly she felt extreme pain in her stomach. She was rushed to the hospital, and immediately they realized that she needed life-saving medical intervention. The fellowship was there for them when the baby was in NICU to provide physical, emotional, and financial support, and we continue to be there for them today. Number 2, the fellowship recently opened a resilience center in Sdot Negev. This is the area right on the border with the Gaza Strip. All of the Israeli residents there are experiencing still the trauma of the October 7th attacks and war for 2 years already. The fellowship is there to give them the tools that they need to continue to live life in joy, in faith, and with resilience. This is one of dozens of resilience centers that the fellowship has helped build, because we believe the people of Israel need to be strong to continue living out this destiny that God has promised. Well, there you have it, friends. There are 2 fellowship projects that you now know about. Join me here next week, same place, same time, for more updates directly from the Holy Land. Shalom.
And in other news, ILTV is partnering with Regavim to help protect Israel's heartland. Over the next several weeks, you'll meet the field coordinators guarding Judea and Samaria, uncover the silent takeover of illegal construction and land grabs, and see what life is really like in the biblical heartland. To get informed and get empowered, scan the QR code on your screen or visit regavim.org. and sign up for their newsletter. Learn how you can take part in safeguarding the land of Israel.
Step into the story of Israel's heartland with Blessed by Israel, where every purchase connects you to the land, the people, and the promise. Taste the sweetness of the promised land in their delicious honeys, or wear the story of the land close to your heart with the stunning Special Places of the Land necklace. Behind each product is a family, pioneers living in Judea and Samaria, crafting beauty and goodness from the soil of the Bible. When you buy their creations, you're not only receiving something extraordinary, you're investing in Israel's future, helping small businesses thrive and communities grow strong. Join a movement that celebrates faith, resilience, and hope. Visit blessedbyisrael.com and use ILTV's special code BLESSISRAEL, that's BLESSISRAEL, at checkout for 10% off on your first order. Be part of strengthening Israel, one purchase at a time.
3 million Israelis are dealing with trauma since October 7th. To help Israelis heal, Hadassah is there, with the largest rehabilitation center in Jerusalem, world-renowned medical centers, and youth villages. It's said, saving a life saves the world. Imagine helping millions. This is Hadassah, a life-changing force in Israel and the world.
ILTV News, your source for Israel in English. Reporting from the ground where it happens, as it happens. An authentic, trusted voice in daily Israel news. Airing on 11 international TV channels and now launching a 24/7 Israeli news channel. Reaching millions every month across all social platforms. Independent, real, powered by truth. We don't just report, we connect. Thanks to a worldwide community that stands for truth. This is ILTV, your source for Israel in English.
on the hour. We are live from Israel, bringing you the biggest headlines of the region. I'm Devo Klein, and here is your roundup of the latest developments coming out of Israel and the Middle East. Trump told reporters in a press conference in the White House that the world leaders set to serve in the Gaza Board of Peace will be announced early next year. Trump added that a variety of leaders from different nations have expressed a desire to take part in the board. Take a listen.
The Gaza plan, when do you expect to announce members of the Board of Peace, the leadership of that?
Well, we'll do it early next year. And the Board of Peace are going to, it'll be one of the most legendary boards ever. Everybody wants to be on it. It's mostly going to be, I guess, we weren't thinking about it that way, but they want to all do it. Basically, it'll be the heads of the most important countries.
Mr. President.
They all want to be on. It wasn't really planned. We thought we were going to get very distinguished people that do that kind of thing for a living. But really, it looks like it's turning out to be they want to be on, the heads, the kings and the presidents, prime ministers. They all want to be on the Board of Peace.
And visiting in Israel to advance Trump's 20-point Gaza plan, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Mike Waltz has warned that allowing Hamas to survive would be, quote, insanity. Waltz was a key figure in pushing Trump's Gaza plan to be approved by the UN Security Council, and he is now in Israel to follow up on the ground. Speaking alongside President Isaac Herzog, Waltz said this.
Well, what has been clear, and I want to be clear, is Hamas has to go. And the President Trump has been clear that's going to happen the easy way or the hard way. But there will not be any more Hamas. And what we cannot do, what we're determined to avoid, is what I call the definition of insanity. Somehow Hamas is allowed to survive, they rebuild, the international community pours billions into reconstruction, Hamas attacks again, and Israel has no choice but to respond, and here we are in this cycle of insanity. The president, his team's determined to break that, and one of the many reasons I'm here is to see that implement.
And last night, Israel reopened the Allenby crossing that's on the border with Jordan after months of continuous terror attacks in the crossing bridge. Trucks were seen crossing from Jordan into Israel after confirmation from a security official that the border was now fully operating for the purpose of humanitarian aid and goods. Israel says the crossing will now operate under tightened security, including enhancing screenings of trucks and drivers and the deployment of a dedicated security force. The Allenby Bridge is one of the most strategic crossings in the region, built during the British Mandate and sitting on the Jordan River. It serves as the main trade corridor between Israel and Jordan. And yet, the crucial border remains a hotspot for terrorism and a threat to Israeli forces there. Storm Byron is picking up here in Israel. MADA, Israel's medical emergency services, are confirming that dozens of vehicles were reported as trapped in massive puddles as mass floodings continue, with Israel's drainage system not keeping up with the amount of downpour. And a 53-year-old man was tragically found dead in his apartment in Netanya with signs of hypothermia. Just a quick reminder for our Israeli viewers to stay safe during this time. The most expensive war in history? Well, that's what a new article by Ynet News is determining, estimating wartime spendings in Israel since October 7th, 2023 at a whopping 30 billion shekels in damages. That's just over $9 billion in what is being pegged as the most expensive war in history. According to the article, 132,000 lawsuits have been filed for damages resulting in the war, of which 89,000 were property damages and 30,000 for vehicle damages. Now, in Israel's war with Iran alone, 2.6 billion shekels were estimated as the damage from Iran's powerful ballistic missiles. And that is a wrap for this edition of ILTV on the Hour. Scan the QR code that's on your screen now for all of the latest updates coming out of Israel. I'm Devo Klein, and thank you so much for watching.
Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Ladarga Velazian. Coming up in today's newscast. With only one hostage remaining, will the Gaza ceasefire plan transition into phase 2? Israel and Bolivia renew full diplomatic relations after a 16-year break. And after hitting Greece and Cyprus, Storm Byron slams into Israel. A senior Hamas official says there will be no second phase in the Gaza truce while Israel continues ceasefire violations. The focus has shifted to implementation of the far more complex second phase of President Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan, approved by the UN Security Council. More on this from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
With the remains of only one hostage still in Gaza, the first phase of the U.S.-brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is nearly complete after 2 months of delays and accusations on both sides. A Hamas official says the Gaza ceasefire cannot move on to its second phase as long as Israeli violations continue, calling on mediators to pressure Israel to adhere to the agreement. The second phase would include the deployment of an international force and the disarmament of Hamas. It's meant to begin only after Hamas completes the return of all hostages and hostage bodies. The group still holds the body of one hostage, Ran Gvili, claiming it has been unable to locate him. Israel has carried out strikes across Gaza, which it says were in retaliation for attacks on troops manning the Yellow Line, where the IDF pulled back at the start of the truce. The focus shifts to the far more complex second phase of President Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan, approved by the UN Security Council. If it succeeds, it could end Hamas rule, rebuild and demilitarize Gaza under international supervision, normalize Israel-Arab ties, and create a possible path toward Palestinian statehood. But the pitfalls are significant. The plan calls for an international stabilization force to deploy in Gaza and train Palestinian police. Several countries have expressed interest, but none have committed, and Israel insists Turkey be excluded. U.S. officials say boots on the ground could come in early 2026, but key questions remain about command and powers remaining unresolved. The second element is Trump's Board of Peace, which he will personally head, overseeing a Palestinian technocratic committee to run Gaza. Members have not been announced, and Israel opposes any figures linked to Hamas or the Palestinian Authority, making selection highly problematic. On reconstruction, Gaza's damage is estimated by the UN at $70 billion. Donor states are expected to gather in Egypt, but funding and agreement on how to spend it remain uncertain. The most contentious issue is Hamas disarmament. The ceasefire requires the group to surrender all weapons. Hamas says it will not disarm, though it has floated freezing its arsenal for several years. Failure to disarm could trigger new clashes with Israel or with international forces. The plan also envisions Israeli withdrawals. Currently, Israel controls over half of Gaza. Further pullouts depend on security milestones, but no timetable exists. Israeli military chief Eyal Zamir has called the current Yellow Line a new border and a vital defensive belt. And finally, Trump's plan requires deep reforms in the Palestinian Authority to create a credible pathway to statehood. Israel rejects a Palestinian state and doubts the PA can reform itself. Without political horizons, Palestinian support for the plan may collapse. With Netanyahu expected at the White House this month, diplomats say the ceasefire is at a critical juncture, with the entire peace roadmap hinging on whether the second phase can actually begin.
Meanwhile, on Tuesday morning, Israelis gathered at Ben Gurion Airport to bid farewell to slain hostage Suti Sakrin Talak before his remains were returned to his home country, Thailand. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
Israelis from the Foreign Ministry and Thai Embassy in Israel gathered at Ben Gurion Airport to hold a send-off ceremony for the casket of slain hostage Suti Sakrin Talak. Before the remains of the Thai national were returned to his family, Israel's hostage coordinator Gal Hirsch took the opportunity to apologize one final time.
Rin Talak family, Sudisak, I'm so sorry. So sorry. It shouldn't end this way. In October 7th, 2023, the terrible invasion to Israel, the huge terror attack on us, we failed to protect you. It took a long time, too long, to bring you back home.
Also sharing words was the Thai ambassador to Israel, reaffirming the relations between Thailand and the Jewish state.
To secure also lasting peace and security and stability in the region, Thailand, alongside the international community, remains firmly committed to supporting the full implementation of the peace agreement and the ceasefire process between Israel and Hamas. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Royal Thai government, I wish to express our sincere gratitude for the government of Israel for its resolute efforts to recover the body of Mr. Sutisak and to bring home the other Thai hostages with dignity and order.
Sutisak was an agricultural student who moved to Israel to work at the exceptional farms of Kibbutz Be'eri when Hamas terrorists infiltrated the farm on October 7th. The terrorists shared video footage of the torture and eventual kidnapping of the Thai nationals who were working at the farm, including Sutisak, highlighting that the battle against Hamas terrorism is a global issue, not only an issue for Israel. With that, Israel's responsibility to bring Sutisak home never diminished, and after 788 painful days, his casket makes its way home for burial.
And joining us now with more on the latest developments in the region and beyond is the spokeswoman for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and our very own former ILTV news anchor, Shosh Bedrosian. So, Shosh, so wonderful to see you.
Lidar, thanks for having me.
So the Prime Minister is scheduled in a short time to visit the White House at the invitation of U.S. President Donald Trump. Can you share with us what is going to top the agenda on this visit?
Sure. So what I can share with your viewers, who I know are listening, is that the meeting will be taking place December 29th. That's a Monday. And they will be discussing the future steps, the phases, and the international stabilization force of the ceasefire plan, essentially the future of what this plan could look like. Now, let's remember where we started. We got to this point in time where we have a ceasefire in place. It's been in place, Lidar, for more than 60 days right now. And it all started with the stronghold of our IDF soldiers going into the Gaza City stronghold, a decision the Prime Minister made. And by doing that, we put immense pressure on Hamas. Not only that, but the diplomatic pressure that President Trump put on Hamas with the help from Arab countries and Muslim countries, we got to the point where Hamas had no choice. So together, we reached this point of a ceasefire. And they will be discussing, of course, like I said, the next phases. Now, we have one more hostage that is still in captivity right now. It is Ron Gvili. He is a hero of Israel. He fought near Kibbutz Alomim. He is our last hostage in captivity. Hamas has delayed giving his body back. It's been more than 61 days. They've been stalling to give his body back. Under this 20-point plan, Lidar, it is a commitment Hamas made. They would release all of our hostages within 72 hours. Here we are, 61 days later, and we still have a hostage in captivity. The Prime Minister has made it very, very clear we will get Ron Gvili's body back home. And moving on to phase two, we will ensure that Hamas is demilitarized and they have no arms. Gaza is demilitarized. Ensure that Hamas has no future inside of Gaza.
And now, speaking of phase two, I mean, how is Israel, how is the Prime Minister navigating the, let's call it the internationalization of this conflict? I mean, it's something that Israel has avoided for many, many years, but now with President Trump's close involvement and the expected military presence of other countries, how has this sort of changed the dynamics and the reality here on the ground?
Look, Lidar, we're at a critical point in this ceasefire because in phase 2, there's a commitment right now that Hamas will demilitarize. For many, many years, as so many Israelis know, Jews know in the diaspora around the world, Hamas has used Gaza as a launching pad to conduct terror attacks against the Jewish state, the only Jewish state in the world, and Jews who live here and anyone who lives here, not just Jews. There have been so many victims of Hamas. So to ensure this, that Israel has a safe border when it comes to Gaza, this is a priority, and we're at this pivotal point where we can make this happen, right? So to demilitarize Gaza, to make sure that there is no future of Hamas inside of the Gaza Strip, and to ensure that Hamas isn't here to ruin their own people's future. That's what phase 2 will also include. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu has also made it very clear there will be a phase 3, which will be to de-radicalize the Gaza Strip, to ensure that education, proper education, is coming back to the people of Gaza, who have been, unfortunately, had to live under this Hamas regime for far too long, and to ensure that they also have a better future as well. But in terms of your question, let's talk about, like I said, how we got here. It's the immense pressure that was put on Hamas when it comes to the Arab states, the Muslim countries, from President Trump's help, in addition to Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision to go into Gaza City. All of that got us to the point of this ceasefire. And it is holding. It is holding, and it certainly is holding. And we want to just make sure our last hostage, Ron, really comes back home for a proper burial.
And President Trump announced, the 20-point peace plan. He announced and also hinted towards a major peace deal that would sweep the region. But since that time, we haven't seen any new countries join the Abraham Accords. And as we've just been talking, there are still major obstacles to reaching phase 2 and, of course, phase 3 of the deal. So where do we stand today? I mean, are there ongoing diplomatic talks with Saudi Arabia, for example? I mean, what is the status of this, the Abraham Accords and this big peace deal?
Sure. Well, Izar, as you know, all good things take time. And let's go back to just the history of the Abraham Accords. No one believed that Israel would actually get peace with 4 Arab states in the Abraham Accords. Prime Minister Netanyahu says right now there's a very strong interest to advance that peace, the peace in this region and even potentially outside of this region. And it's peace through strength, right? It's making sure that the security of Israel is never relinquished. And that's a top priority for the Prime Minister, is to make sure that all borders of the state of Israel are protected from the north, the south, and all of its remaining borders. Remember, we had an Iranian terror axis surrounding us from the north with Hezbollah, even the Houthis inside of Yemen, and also, of course, Hamas inside of the Gaza Strip. We have severely cut these terror axes off, the Iranian terror axis and these terror groups that are funded by Iran themselves. And the Prime Minister wants to expand peace. And that's what he hopes to achieve. The Prime Minister believes we can extend the Abraham Accords, not just with one country, with many countries, including Islamic countries outside of the region as well. And this is what he recently said.
Shosh Bedrosian, thank you so much for joining us. It's always so wonderful to see you.
Thanks so much, Lidar.
3 million Israelis are dealing with trauma since October 7th. To help Israelis heal, Hadassah is there, with the largest rehabilitation center in Jerusalem, world-renowned medical centers, and youth villages. It's said, saving a life saves the world. Imagine helping millions. This is Hadassah, a life-changing force in Israel and the world.
And the IDF and police say 6 suspected smugglers were captured following a chase on the Egyptian border. Soldiers monitoring surveillance cameras spotted the smuggling cell near the border. Following a pursuit involving troops of the 80th Division, the Israeli Air Force, Shin Bet, and police, the suspects were detained. The IDF says it also captured their vehicle and 21 kilograms of an unspecified drug. The suspects were taken by police for further interrogation. The IDF said it will continue coordinating with other security agencies to thwart smuggling attempts and maintain security along the border. The Paran Regional Brigade is responsible for securing the nearly 150-mile or 240-kilometer border with the Sinai. And in other diplomatic news, Israel and Bolivia have officially restored full diplomatic relations after a 16-year break, signing a joint communique at a ceremony in Washington. Foreign Minister Gideon Sar and his Bolivian counterpart Fernando Armayo announced a new framework for cooperation in agriculture, security, innovation, and tourism, with both countries to appoint ambassadors soon. Sal called the move the end of a long and unnecessary chapter, noting that ties had been severed since 2009, except for a brief restoration in 2020. He praised Bolivia's new president, Rodrigo Paz, and said Israel wants to support the country's economic reforms. The agreement also highlights Bolivia's historic support for Jewish refugees and for the 1947 UN vote establishing the State of Israel. With Bolivia lifting visa requirements for Israelis, Jerusalem expects tourism and people-to-people ties to grow. Sal said the renewed relationship marks a new chapter with Israel, Bolivia, and the United States cooperating closely moving forward. And in other news, ILTV is partnering with Regavim to help protect Israel's heartland. Over the next several weeks, you'll meet the field coordinators guarding Judea and Samaria, uncover the silent takeover of illegal construction and land grabs, and see what life is really like in the biblical heartland. To get informed and get empowered, scan the QR code on your screen or visit regavim.org and sign up for their newsletter. Learn how you can take part in safeguarding the land of Israel. And now Israel is bracing for severe weather as Storm Byron arrives after hitting Greece and Cyprus. Our correspondent, India Naftali, is with us in Ashdod, one of Israel's major coastal cities, expecting strong impacts from the storm. India?
Yes, Lidar, don't let this sunny weather fool you. I'm standing here in Ashdod, one of Israel's coastal cities, expected to take a direct hit from Storm Byron. Actually, an Israeli official said Israel is about to see rainfall, the likes of which we have not seen. Now, there is a well-known joke here in Israel that Israel's more prepared for missiles and rockets than for rain, and it does feel true in a lot of ways. I mean, Israel doesn't get a whole lot of rain most of the year until the winter, of course. Some rain began overnight, but really the brunt of the storm is expected to hit tonight and especially tomorrow. Total rainfall could reach about 200 millimeters, and dozens of millimeters may fall only within a few hours. Now, just to put that into perspective, Lidar, even a well-prepared city can only handle about 30 millimeters a day. Anything above that makes flooding likely.
Heavy rainfall events like this have become more common in the recent years, and flooding has even claimed lives. Flood and storm damage in Israel already totals billions of shekels each year. And just recently, the government approved a plan of 1.5 billion shekels, about $250 million, for flood preparedness. This budget covers 13 projects across Israel over the next 5 years to help prevent flooding. One of the main plans is to create urban sponges, which are areas designed to pull excess water away from the cities. There will also be new systems to absorb river overflow, which is one of the biggest causes of flooding in Israel. But experts warned that even with these measures, the funding is still not enough to fully protect the country.
What you see now is just the calm before the storm. The winds are expected to reach 90 kilometers per hour in some places, and residents across the country are warned to prepare for difficult weather conditions. Back to you, Lidar.
Thank you, India, for the report. We're all bracing for Storm Byron. And moving on, Kiryat Shmona, the heart of Israel's north, is still recovering from the war with Hezbollah. After the countless evacuations and rocket impacts in the city, many residents left. And what remains now are the final residents clinging on to the life they once knew, trying to make some money and put food on the table.
Israel has won the war in the north, or has it? While Hezbollah didn't destroy Israel north physically, they have wiped out Kiryat Shmona's economy. Take a look.
After 2 years of war and countless evacuations, Kiryat Shmona, the capital of Israel's north, now feels like a ghost town. Shops are closed, malls are empty, And without jobs in business, people struggle to put food on the table. Yad Ezra Shulamit, the largest distributor of food baskets in Israel, has already received thousands of new requests for food from families in the north, each struggling to make ends meet.
ההורים לא עובדים כי מפעלים שלהם לא נפתחו. אני מכירה פה אנשים באים, כל בן אדם שנכנס כמעט בוכה שאין לו פרנסה. עד 8 בערב אני מחכה שמישהו יבוא ולהתחיל לפרנס, אני לא יודעת איך אני יוצא מכל זה.
בכמה עוזרת המדינה בעניין הזה?
בינתיים לא עוזרת. בינתיים לא עוזרת בשום דבר. אני לבד מתמודדת עם כל הדברים.
Joining me now in studio is Jamie Geller with insights on how we can save the North. Jamie, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a bit about how we can save the situation in the North.
Okay, well, we all remember the sirens and the rockets and the evacuations of the communities in the North. But what we didn't see and what we don't know now is the absolute devastation that has hit the Kiryat Shmona economy.
Right, so what do you mean by that?
So these are working class people who have come back, even at risk of their own lives, to come to the north, to come back to Kiryat Shmona, and there is just no business. And now they're sitting there with no food. These are people that were never on the receiving end before and really don't know what they're going to put on the table for the next meal.
So what does this mean for the future?
Well, basically, the government and money has been sent to Kiryat Shmona and other similar communities to help rebuild schools and hospitals and critical infrastructure, but that's really a long-term view. And while critical, we have these people right now who do not have food to put on the table. So Yad Ezra Shulamit is literally on the ground now, providing food baskets for all those that have asked. Over 400 requests have been made from the city of Kiryat Shmona. That represents thousands of people, and it's literally a cry for help from the city itself, and we really need to be there to help them. It's a matter of survival.
So what can we, citizens of Israel, or maybe even people abroad, do to help these people?
Okay, so food baskets, that's the beginning. We need to make sure that they can get back on, rebuild themselves, reestablish themselves, and food is critical for that. So to really help Yad Ezra Shulamit in terms of reestablishing Kiryat Shmona and the people there, helping them get themselves back on their own feet. There is basically a 21,000 businesses that have closed since the war and a 49% increase in unemployment. So Yad Ezra Shulamit is running a matching campaign right now. Every single donation is doubled. So for everyone watching here in the ILTV community has been unbelievable in supporting the hungry of Israel right now. They've been unbelievable. We want them to support at least one family, and then we can feed everybody in the north, because we don't want these people to move. I mean, they don't want to move. They're strong, they're resilient, and basically Kiryat Shmona sits on the border of the Lebanese border, on the border of Lebanon. So this is critical city to the security of Israel. And these people have come back, even like I said early, at risk to their own lives. So they're standing there resilient, protecting Israel's border. We can't leave them hungry, and we can't leave them without food to eat.
We're talking about an entire city here that needs to recover psychologically, economically. How does the food basket program help in the larger picture?
Okay. Well, essentially, like I said, the big infrastructure is being taken care of by government and funds from abroad. But if people don't have what to eat, there will be no one left to go to these hospitals, schools, and to live in this fruitful city. So this is literally a matter of survival and putting food on the table. And food baskets are the first step in terms of rehabilitating people that were never on the receiving end before. These are working class people that want to get back to work. We just had to feed them in the interim.
Thank you, Jamie. I assure you that the ILTV community and viewers are supportive of your cause of saving the North. We can't let Kiryat Shmona disappear. It's right on the border with Lebanon and probably the most important city in the North in terms of national security. It's the end of the year and the perfect time to get those last tax deductions for 2025. Please take a moment to scan this QR code on the screen to feed a family in Kiryat Shmona and help save the capital of Israel's North. All donations are being doubled right now.
A very, very important and worthy cause. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Heavy rain and thunderstorms are expected to reach most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 13 degrees Celsius or 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see heavy rain and potential flooding alongside steady temperatures with highs of 17 degrees Celsius or 63 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel. And you can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Ladar Gavelazi. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.
Good evening, I'm Alec Pollard and welcome to ILTV Insider. Another meeting between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump has been scheduled for December 29th, the fifth between the leaders since Trump took office. On the agenda, phase 2 of the president's 20-point plan for Gaza. But if Hamas shows no intention of disarming, can Gaza have a future any different than what has been in the last 20 years? To break it down, we're joined by Mossi Raz, former lawmaker for the Meretz Party, and Selena Ryan, a political analyst. Thank you, both of you, for being here on the show. So Trump likes deals. Trump likes seeing his plans move forward. But Hamas will not disarm in Gaza, and no international force can make them do that. Can they, Mossi?
I don't know. You have to ask Trump. But what I do know is that first, Trump has a lot of problem with this international force, because I don't see states are happy to send soldiers to fight in Gaza, a part of two. One is Turkey, that we, Israel, don't like. Probably we are right. And maybe this is one of the topics between Trump and Netanyahu, because I feel Trump is supporting them, supporting Erdogan. And the second one is the Palestinian Authority, that our government is doing a terrible mistake opposing them and again preferring Hamas on the Palestinian Authority. Now, disarming the Hamas, I don't know if it's possible. We tried by force 38 years, and Hamas became stronger and stronger. So it's not that we have a military way to do that. We tried and failed again and again 38 years. So we have to try another way. And one more thing, it's not anymore in our hands, because we cannot fight anymore. As President Trump said to Netanyahu, you cannot fight all the world all the time. And now there is this agreement that we agree upon, and we have to obey to the agreement.
So how do Hamas disarm then?
I hope by this international force. If you ask me if it's going to happen, I don't know.
Okay, I'd like to come with a different point of view here. I think and I hope that there's a bigger plan behind all this 28 points plan that Trump came up with to give us validation, and first of all to de-escalate the tension that was between Israel and basically the whole world, the Arab world, Europe. Everyone was against us and on us at some point in this war. So I think this sort of ceasefire that we kind of have now was good to de-escalate, and it's preparing the ground and the validation for Israel to actually finish Hamas. Because we've seen in the past 2 months since we did the ceasefire that Hamas is not stopping. They still attack. They killed 3 soldiers, and I think one of them right in the first week of the ceasefire. They still are planning like attacks against the forces. We saw, I think yesterday, there was an attack in Deir el-Balah in central Gaza on a Hamas terrorist that was planning to attack the troops, the Israeli troops. So they're not stopping. And I think that all this, that what's happening now, it's gonna lead until December on a decision where we can see that Hamas clearly refuses to disarm. We see all the Hamas leaders, the biggest Hamas leaders, Khaled Mashal, Khalil al-Khaya, bin Nunus, I forgot his name. All of them say we are not going to disarm. Israel is the enemy. October the 7th was good. There's nothing to debate here. They won't disarm. They don't accept the international force. Also, there is no international force at this moment. There is nobody that actually offered to help, to fight, to de-escalate the situation in Gaza, aside Turkey, like you said. And we cannot accept that because Turkey also supports Hamas. And I also disagree with what you said, that it would be a good decision to accept the Palestinian Authority instead of Hamas. How I see it is basically replacing Hamas with Hamas 0.2. So I don't think that's a good solution. So I think what's going to happen in December, I hope that we are going to be allowed to go back to fighting and finish this, because you said that for 38 years we fought Hamas and we didn't manage to disarm it. I don't consider we really did fight it. I think we were never allowed to win this war against Hamas. We always stopped 50% along the way. And that's what led to October the 7th. And now I think we are on a path where there's no turning back, and it's either disarmament or disarmament. That's it.
Amazing. I don't see it, of course, like that. We killed tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza before October 7. And we killed again and again Hamas people. But the policy of the government is still the policy right now to prefer Hamas on the Palestinian Authority. This is why they don't like the Palestinian Authority in Gaza. This is why they ignored the Arab League peace initiative, the President Abbas saying again and again that he wants a peace solution, cooperation with the Israeli army, the IDF, and so on. And this is exactly what they are doing now, preferring Hamas on the Palestinian Authority. If I look at Ramallah, where the Palestinian Authority rule, there is no Hamas. If I look at East Jerusalem, where Israel rules, there is Hamas. So we tried 38 years, we killed again and again and again. In the same way we tried in Lebanon for now 43 years. And we failed again and again because there is no military solution to that.
You speak about Ramallah, but let's talk about Jenin, let's talk about Nablus, let's talk about Tulkarem. They're also under fully Palestinian Authority control. They're the biggest terror house in the West Bank.
Yes and no. Yes and no. As you see, the Israeli armies, when we started this operation in Jenin 4 years ago, I was asked in TV if we support or not. I say, I don't know, but I do know that it's not going to prevent terror. And the IDF is acting now in Jenin 4 years, every day, and it's the same. Because when there is an occupation, there is a terrorist.
How do you explain the terror attacks that happen in Europe where there's no claim of occupation?
Just a minute.
What is the source of terrorism? Let's talk
there are
about
many
that.
sources.
No, it's a question.
There are many sources to terrorism.
Okay.
Even here, not only occupation. I'm not saying the occupation is the only problem. There are many sources to terrorism. One of them is occupation.
Okay.
What do you think? In our case, we see that before the occupation in '67, we had security, and after the occupation, the day after, we lost our security. We had to expand we need a bigger army, and we have again and again and again more casualties. Since '67, this is the day that everything was changed. I can give numbers if you want. I can give numbers. After '67, immediately we had the war with the surrounding country, the Atasha, with more than 1,000 Israeli soldiers.
You had many attacks before '67, including the Fedayeen that came from Gaza.
Very few. Comparing to what we had after '67, when did missiles started to Israel? When I go to Israelis, they say after the disengagement. No, after '67, missiles from Lebanon and even from the West Bank. Not many, but even from Jordan, by the way.
This is from Iran. These are Iran proxies. Do we occupy Iran? As far as I know.
In '69, when they launched the first missiles to Israel, there was no Iran. Of course, there was Iran, but not this Iran.
Yeah.
No Islamic Iran. They did not get anything from Iran. Israel was the partner of Iran by then, and they launched the missiles. So if you think that the missiles is because of Iran, I'm not saying that there is no connection, but it started before there was.
So you're saying the main source is the Israeli presence beyond '67 borders is the main source of the terrorism.
Not the only one,
but the main one.
Not the only. Yes.
The main source. What do you think?
I completely disagree. These Islamists, I'll call them that, extremists, they attacked the Jews in this land way before Israel was even in plan to exist. And during its formation and up until today, so it's not connected to any occupation. You cannot talk about the occupation when even these Islamist leaders say that their goal is to reach Jerusalem. We're not talking about...
So you say that you have the same goal like them. Actually, this is what you have just said, that you are like them. Because, I understand that their goal is to reach Jerusalem. Their goal is to have all from the river to the sea, like you and like this TV channel and most of the Israelis, from the river to the sea. So what's the difference between you and them?
The difference is that the Arabs that live here, we don't call them occupiers, but the Jews that live in Judea and Samaria, we call them occupiers. Don't you think that's a bit unfair? If we can live together, let's live together. So far, we live together.
There is an army in what you call, which is not Judea and Samaria, because we are in Rishon LeZion, which is Judea. But okay, in the occupied territories, there is an army. The army rule everything.
Civilians and
there is no Arab army in Israel. This is a comparison.
Yeah, because the attacks, the terror attacks that they do in Judea and Samaria most of the times are on civilians. They're not on the army. All the killings on the roads, the stonings on the roads.
I am against terror and I'm against civilians that don't have to be there. This is not the question. But you said that there is an Arab occupation in Israel. What are you talking about?
I did not say, no, I did not. Don't put words in my mouth. I did not say that. I said we have Arab citizens, civilians that live in Israel.
Great. What's the problem with that?
I agree. I agree with you. And I want the same thing to be in Judea and Samaria, and I want the same thing to be in Gaza.
In the Palestinian state, okay. Okay.
What Palestinian state?
This is not Israel.
It was Jordan before. It was Jordan before. It was never a Palestinian
state. Just two states in the world, Pakistan and UK, recognized the annexation when Jordan annexed the West Bank in, I think, 1950, maybe 49 or 51. Why? Because all the other nations in the world say this is part of Palestine.
Based on what?
This is the West Bank.
Based on what? On what?
Based on the UN resolution in 1947, the same resolution that our state was in our independence. Maybe we should say even constitution, according to the decision right now. We mentioned that according to the basis of Zionism. What is the basis of Zionism according to the First Congress? We want the right of the Jewish people for self-determination according to the international law. This is what we're talking about. This is Zionism.
And how did the Arab states react to that? They all attacked us. When you attack,
I agree.
You need to take the responsibility of losing land.
I agree that in 1947 they made a mistake and they paid. 700,000 Palestinians were deported. They don't have even now.
In 48, in 67, in 73, it's a pattern.
No, 67 we attacked them. But what I do say is, reality. You can lie whatever you want to lie.
But they closed the Straits of Tehran. They kicked out the UN peacekeeping force.
But we attacked them.
Nasser was on radio every day saying he's going to annihilate Israel. He did an alliance with Syria. So there's a bit of a context there. But wait, let's try to move on here a second, because regarding policy for Israel, okay, there's a disagreement as far as some of the core causes of the conflict and what's been happening in Gaza. Netanyahu is going to be going to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, and they are trying to promote Israel's interest. How should Trump proceed in that environment, or rather Netanyahu proceed in that environment when Trump has, we've talked about this, good intentions in trying to get these deals between Israel and some of these Arab countries, even if maybe on the ground the situation is not as optimal as he thinks it is. But he's the deal maker, art of the deal. Trump, let's get a deal in Gaza, let's get a deal with Syria, let's get a deal maybe with Saudi Arabia. How does Netanyahu keep Israel's interest in check here?
So before I talk about what Netanyahu should or could do, I'll talk a little bit about Trump's mode of action with his peace deals, which you cannot make a peace deal and force one nation to come with a flower towards like an entity that wants to kill you and comes to you with guns and rockets. Okay, and all the ceasefire we see, like now, what he's trying to do between Ukraine and Russia is not really working, right? It's not working. What he did between Cambodia and Thailand, they're fighting again now. There's been attacks in the past 3 days, 5,000 civilians injured, 500,000 displaced, and several killed. It's not working. You cannot force peace between two entities that hate each other without building any mutual understanding or without changing a regime, replacing something. You cannot make two people that are like arch enemies for decades to come together and say, oh, now we're best friends, we're gonna, it's not holding. So it's not realistic. Trump's plan is good in theory. He's a businessman. He's trying to strike deals. But in the real world, especially in such a tumultuous region like the Middle East, it's not holding.
So what should Netanyahu do? So what should Netanyahu do?
Netanyahu should learn to say sometimes no to Trump. With all due respect to Trump, I will always
the U.S. is Israel's biggest ally, and at this point, maybe Israel's only ally on the international stage.
He's not the only ally. Behind the scenes, we have more allies than you think. They all say what they need to say on TV and on camera because this is the trend. But I do believe, and I know that we have a lot of economical relations and all kind of like deals with a lot of nations in the world, including the Arab world.
Can you fight with economical relations? In order to fight, you need weapons.
Of course. Economical deals are part of like selling weapons to us.
You understand that you need weapons.
Yeah.
You understand? Okay.
Of course.
So how do you think Netanyahu should proceed in this upcoming meeting concerning Israel's interests in Gaza and also Lebanon and Syria?
Partly I agree, but I think that we are in a very difficult situation that both sides took ourselves and they took themselves to this difficult situation. To say the truth, we cannot fight again. We cannot fight again. It's not that we don't want to fight again. We cannot fight again. And in the other side, it's pretty the same. It doesn't say, of course, they killed 3 soldiers and we killed back. And things are going to be difficult. Because Trump came with a lot of, first, I have to say, he came with a lot of willingness to help. He released the hostages. He stopped the fire, and we had huge interest to stop the war, not less than releasing the hostages. We saw what happened. We went down and down and down. And right now, the stage 2, it's a little bit more difficult. And I think that we have to help him. If he wants to build an international force, we have to be more supportive to that.
Nobody wants to fight in Gaza.
Like I said earlier, there are at least 2 who want. And at least one of them, I'm not sure about the second, but at least one of them, the Palestinian Authority, we have the interest that they will be there. It's not that they are 100%. It's not that they can disarm the Hamas in 100%, but it is not that we succeed to disarm Hamas / any other organization in occupied territories or in Lebanon in the years that we were in Lebanon. Because it's difficult. Of course, we understand that we have here a fight, we have here a war between 2 nations that have a lot of things between them.
Palestinian Authority, what do you think about them? Can anything productive be got out of the Palestinian Authority for Israel, especially considering that the other alternative maybe is Hamas? Should Israel engage with the Palestinian Authority more? That's probably your main point that you're trying to make here. That's the solution. That's the way out for Israel.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there is solution, but the way out is a way
forward. Palestinian Authority, is it a way forward for Israel?
Definitely not. And you don't need to go too far. You can go look at the West Bank and ask there the people if they love the Palestinian Authority. Majority will say no. It's a very corrupt system. It hasn't done nothing for the civilians there. They're stealing. They are a hub for terror, and they actively reward terrorism. Yesterday, I read 2 reports. One of Regavim. They went there, and there is a neighborhood in the West Bank being built for terrorists that have spent more than 20 years in Israeli jails, they killed. When they go out, they get a house as a gift from the Palestinian Authority. This is the one we want to put in Gaza?
No Hamas, no Palestinian Authority, what yes?
New leadership. There is few militias now that fight in Gaza. And it's not the best, they're not at their best, but they're doing their best. They're actively fighting Hamas. They say they want peace. They don't have their weapons pointed at us, at Israel, which I think it's important because we never had this in this land until now, to have a militia fighting against Hamas that is not hateful towards Israel. Could this be a solution? Maybe we need to explore it more. But I think a system that has been here for decades, aka the Palestinian Authority, and we know exactly how rotten it is and how is a hub for terrorism. To put that in Gaza, I think it's a big mistake, and it's going to just prolong what we had until now. It's not going to lead to a peaceful solution.
First, if you ask Israelis what do they think about our government, I think the majority would say that our government is corrupted. This is not a reason to...
the difference is that in Israel we have elections every 2-3 years. In the Palestinian Authority, they didn't have elections in the past 2 decades, I think.
This is not a reason to eliminate a state. And second, if you ask the figures, how many Palestinians we killed in the last 2 years, according to Prime Minister Netanyahu, 2/3 of them are innocent, many, tens of thousands, and it is not a reason to eliminate our right for a state. So the Palestinian Authority, of course, they have a problem. Abbas was elected, yes, 20 years ago. By the way, I don't justify, of course, they are corrupted, and of course, there are many problems. He was elected 20 years ago when he supported the Arab League Peace Initiative. Why, if you ask Israelis, I spoke yesterday with 4 groups. Today, up to now, only with 2. And I asked, have you heard about the Arab League Peace Initiative? None of them have heard about that because the media is all the time supporting the war.
What Arab Peace Initiative? The one from 2001?
That was 2002. That was adopted and reapproved from there 24 times. Last time on March 4th in the summit in Cairo that produced the Egyptian plane. That actually, if you take the Trump's plane, 70% adopted.
There was a version of that peace plan, though, in the 2001 negotiation, and their plan basically also calls for a right of return of Palestinians into Israel, which is not a framework for 2 states.
This is not what the Arab League...
It does. It says right of return of referees. And in the negotiation, they rejected it.
No, it's not. It said agreed a just solution to the question of the refugees.
And what does a just solution mean to the Arab world?
If you think that the right of return is just, okay. But if you say agreed, meaning agreed by Israel too.
So an agreement can be reached. There is an agreement to be struck that can overcome that obstacle and the other obstacles. It's there for the waiting to be taken.
No. And we saw in the Geneva initiative that was approved by the Palestinian Authority that there is no right of return. We saw now in the plane, in the initiative of Al-Qudwa and Olmert, that there is no... And it's kind of Arab League Peace Initiative. Actually, the answer is no. But my point is that Abu Mazen came and said, I want 2-state solution. I want 67 borders. The cooperation with Israel is mukaddas, is holy. And the Palestinians supported him, but after 20 years, they told him, the Israelis don't want to talk to you. We don't have partners.
We have to wrap it up. I mean, the Israeli side would say that they tried and couldn't reach a deal because of some of those.
But they didn't.
Right? They didn't reach a deal. Well, there's a question why the deal wasn't reached. We don't have time. We're running out of time, unfortunately. Of course, we could keep on going for a long time. That always happens. So I just want to thank both of our guests here for bringing in their input, Selena Ryan and Mossi Raz. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching ILTV Insider. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
And now Israel is bracing for severe weather as Storm Byron arrives after hitting Greece and Cyprus. Our correspondent India Naftali is with us in Ashdod, one of Israel's major coastal cities, expecting strong impacts from the storm. India?
Yes, Lidar, don't let this sunny weather fool you. I'm standing here in Ashdod, one of Israel's coastal cities, expected to take a direct hit from Storm Byron. Actually, an Israeli official said Israel is about to see rainfall, the likes of which we have not seen. Now, there is a well-known joke here in Israel that Israel's more prepared for missiles and rockets than for rain, and it does feel true in a lot of ways. I mean, Israel doesn't get a whole lot of rain most of the year until the winter, of course. Some rain began overnight, but really the brunt of the storm is expected to hit tonight and especially tomorrow. Total rainfall could reach about 200 millimeters, and dozens of millimeters may fall only within a few hours. Now, just to put that into perspective, Lidar, even a well-prepared city can only handle about 30 millimeters a day. Anything above that makes flooding likely.
Heavy rainfall events like this have become more common in the recent years, and flooding has even claimed lives. Flood and storm damage in Israel already totals billions of shekels each year. And just recently, the government approved a plan of 1.5 billion shekels, about $250 million, for flood preparedness. This budget covers 13 projects across Israel over the next 5 years to help prevent flooding. One of the main plans is to create urban sponges, which are areas designed to pull excess water away from the cities. There will also be new systems to absorb river overflow, which is one of the biggest causes of flooding in Israel. But experts warned that even with these measures, the funding is still not enough to fully protect the country.
What you see now is just the calm before the storm. The winds are expected to reach 90 kilometers per hour in some places, and residents across the country are warned to prepare for difficult weather conditions. Back to you, Lidar.
Thank you, India, for the report. We're all bracing for Storm Byron.
Well, men from across the U.S. are uniting to support Israelis impacted by the war, from bereaved families and injured soldiers to small businesses struggling to recover. Joining us now via Zoom is Dr. Steve Katz, emergency medicine physician and founder and chair of the Jewish National Fund USA's Brotherhood Mission to Israel. Steve was with us in the studio earlier this year, and the third annual mission is now set for February 25th through March 4th. Steve, it's so great to have you back with us. I want to start just by asking you, what is the Jewish National Fund USA's Brotherhood Mission? Who's it for, and how does that fundraising aspect work?
Thank you for having me. The Brotherhood Mission is all about connecting Jews from the diaspora, in this case mostly America, to our brothers and sisters in Israel. And our only goal is to perform as many acts of loving kindness for that 1 week for our brothers and sisters in Israel, and to raise as much money for those projects as possible. Last year we raised $2.4 million, the year before $1.1 million, and this year we're hoping to raise obviously a lot more, hopefully $3 million or more.
Now, since launching these missions after October 7th, as you mentioned, more than $3 million has already been raised. What have been some of the most powerful moments from the past missions, and why did it feel so urgent to do this now?
I think after October 7th, we all need to step up. This is not the time to sit on the sidelines, whether you're in Israel, in the military, or whether you're a civilian in the States. I think we all are one people, Am Yisrael, and we all must stick together. Some of the highlights were visiting Rimon Farms, which is a therapeutic farm in the South that supports the needs of children in distress, PTSD for soldiers that have served Israel so valiantly, Shomer HaChadash and Adam Va'adama, creating the future leaders of the state of Israel, supporting agricultural needs and security for kibbutzim and moshavim. We've met with former hostages. We've met with Sagi Dovev and the amazing work that he's doing at Tel HaShomer Hospital with injured soldiers on a daily basis. This particular year, we're having a huge party on Purim with Naftali Aklum and the Ethiopian community in conjunction with a bunch of combat IDF units. And I could just go on, but our goal is simply to help our brothers and sisters in Israel in every single possible way that we possibly can for 1 week straight.
Now, as you are recruiting for this third mission, what's new this year, and what do you hope that participants and the Israelis they're supporting will walk away with?
What's new this year is we're spending more time at less places. So, for example, we're spending a full day in the Golan Heights with the mayor and deputy mayor of the Golan to do a building project. We have a general contractor from the States who's going to be with us. So we're going to be doing a big building project there for 1 full day, 45 guys working. We're doing a project with the Ramat HaNegev region in the south, similar project. And we're doing a big event the first night we get there with Next October, which is a brainchild of Itzar Shai, whose son unfortunately fell after October 7th. And he created this beautiful organization that connect new high-tech companies in memory of those that were bereaved. So we're doing a big event with the families of the bereaved with Next October.
Now, if someone is watching and wants to be a part of this mission, how can they get more involved? How can they support the important work that you're doing in all of these Israeli communities?
Sure. JNF.org/Brotherhood Mission has all the information, has all the previous videos and newspaper articles, and outlines exactly what we're doing. We are nonpartisan. The only partisan activities we have is that we're fiercely committed to the people of Israel.
All right, I want to thank you, Dr. Steve Katz of the Jewish National Fund USA.
Thank you.
To ILTV on the hour. We are live from Israel, bringing you the biggest headlines of the region. I'm Devo Klein, and here is your roundup of the latest developments coming out of Israel and the Middle East. Trump told reporters in a press conference in the White House that the world leaders set to serve in the Gaza Board of Peace will be announced early next year. Trump added that a variety of leaders from different nations have expressed a desire to take part in the board. Take a listen.
The Gaza plan, when do you expect to announce members of the Board of Peace, the leadership of that? Well, we'll do it early next year, and the Board of Peace are going to, it'll be one of the most legendary boards ever. Everybody wants to be on it. It's mostly going to be, I guess, we weren't thinking about it that way, but they want to all do it. Basically, it'll be the heads of the most important countries.
Mr. President,
they all want to be on. It wasn't really planned. We thought we were going to get very distinguished people that do that kind of thing for a living. But really, it looks like it's turning out to be they want to be on. The heads, the kings, and the presidents, prime ministers, they all want to be on the Board of Peace.
And visiting in Israel to advance Trump's 20-point Gaza plan, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Mike Waltz has warned that allowing Hamas to survive would be, quote, insanity. Waltz was a key figure in pushing Trump's Gaza plan to be approved by the UN Security Council, and he is now in Israel to follow up on the ground. Speaking alongside President Isaac Herzog, Waltz said this.
Well, what has been clear, and I want to be clear, is Hamas has to go. And the President Trump has been clear that's going to happen the easy way or the hard way. But there will not be any more Hamas. And what we cannot do, what we're determined to avoid, is what I call the definition of insanity. Somehow Hamas is allowed to survive, they rebuild, the international community pours billions into reconstruction, Hamas attacks again, and Israel has no choice but to respond, and here we are in this cycle of insanity. The president, his team's determined to break that, and one of the many reasons I'm here is to see that implement.
And last night, Israel reopened the Allenby crossing that's on the border with Jordan after months of continuous terror attacks in the crossing bridge. Trucks were seen crossing from Jordan into Israel after confirmation from a security official that the border was now fully operating for the purpose of humanitarian aid and goods. Israel says the crossing will now operate under tightened security, including enhancing screenings of trucks and drivers and the deployment of a dedicated security force. The Allenby Bridge is one of the most strategic crossings in the region, built during the British Mandate and sitting on the Jordan River. It serves as the main trade corridor between Israel and Jordan. And yet, the crucial border remains a hotspot for terrorism and a threat to Israeli forces there. Storm Byron is picking up here in Israel. MADA, Israel's medical emergency services, are confirming that dozens of vehicles were reported as trapped in massive puddles as mass floodings continue, with Israel's drainage system not keeping up with the amount of downpour. And a 53-year-old man was tragically found dead in his apartment in Netanya with signs of hypothermia. Just a quick reminder for our Israeli viewers to stay safe during this time. The most expensive war in history? Well, that's what a new article by Ynet News is determining, estimating wartime spendings in Israel since October 7th, 2023, at a whopping 30 billion shekels in damages. That's just over $9 billion in what is being pegged as the most expensive war in history. According to the article, 132,000 lawsuits have been filed for damages resulting in the war, of which 89,000 were property damages and 30,000 for vehicle damages. Now, in Israel's war with Iran alone, 2.6 billion shekels were estimated as the damage from Iran's powerful ballistic missiles. And that is a wrap for this edition of ILTV on the Hour. Scan the QR code that's on your screen now for all of the latest updates coming out of Israel. I'm Devo Klein, and thank you so much for watching.
I'm in touch with people in Gaza even today, and they all tell me, what did you do? What is wrong with you? You were so close to help us and to eliminate this horrible enemy, and you just gave up. We need to be clear about the future of Gaza. If we will cooperate with a plan to reconstruct Gaza, while Hamas are still there, it will be a historic victory in the eyes of Hamas.
Welcome back to Axis of Truth on JNS. Well, from Africa to Minnesota and around the world, it seems that Islamist terrorism is a growing problem, plaguing the entire globe on every continent. And as we know, Gaza is no exception to that. Yes, there is a ceasefire, at least on paper, but this is despite the fact that all last week, for example, we saw repeated violations by Hamas and swift reactions by the IDF targeting Hamas terrorists in response. So let's zoom out a little bit on this issue. Is this ceasefire even plausible? Well, joining us to discuss is the world's foremost expert on Gaza and the former head of COGOT, as well as the last Israeli mayor of Gaza before the Israeli withdrawal. We sat down with Colonel Grisha Yakubovich last week to discuss the future of Gaza. Well, joining us now to discuss the latest situation and what will become of the Gaza Strip is Colonel Grisha Yakubovich, who is the former head of COGOT, as well as the last mayor of Gaza itself when there was still a Jewish community on the ground there. Now, Grisha has over 30 years' experience of advancing partnerships between Palestinians and Israelis, and today we're going to ask him what's going to become in the coming months and years of the Gaza Strip. Grisha, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to speak with you. To start, Israel has achieved major military gains in Gaza. I think that's undeniable. But realistically, what is the next step? How do we move from a combat phase to something sustainable without repeating the same mistakes of the past in Gaza?
Well, Emily, first of all, I want to clarify one thing. When we say that Israel achieved a lot by our amazing soldiers, the IDF, it's in the eyes of the beholder. And we need to understand that, because what looks as a victory to us, and it is a victory, the other side, Hamas, the terror groups, the terrorists, they consider the situation as their victory. And we need to understand that, because it will have a huge impact on the future. Because if in their eyes they won, it means they should get more. And if in our eyes we won, it means they should get zero. And this is actually the basic understanding that we need to clarify. Because if you ask somebody, a Western guy who won, definitely it will be Israel. But if you ask any kid in Gaza who won, they will tell you definitely Hamas. And we need to understand that, because for them, being able to stand against us for 2 years and even negotiating with us about the ability to allow to 150 terrorists to move from an underground tunnel from Rafah to Gaza, this is a victory. Yes, For us, it looks like, they are begging and they're asking and they are using the mediators. And again, I want to be clear about it. For them, this is a victory. So, as long as they stay in Gaza, for them, it's a victory. And we need to be clear about the future of Gaza. If they will stay in Gaza, and if we will cooperate with a plan to reconstruct Gaza, while Hamas are still there, it will be a historic victory in the eyes of Hamas, and maybe that's how they will write their own history. In Western approach, they suffered a lot of casualties and huge destruction and whatever, but for them it's a matter of time. It can be fixed as long as we are on our legs. So if you ask me as an expert, how do I prefer that the future will look like in Gaza? That nobody will stay in Gaza, because I don't see that they have a future after what they did on October 7th. But if we will need to settle and to accept a deal, I think that we should this time put a price list, and we give nothing for free. And if they will want to get something, only if they will be able to provide us insurance, guarantees that they will be unarmed and that they will have no terror intentions in the future.
Now, I know that you've worked in Gaza for many years. I think you know it better than perhaps anyone I know. What does the reality on the ground look like right now in terms of Hamas remaining in power, remaining in command and control?
Emily, one of the things that I want to raise is that we are usually focused on one thing, and again, I'm not judging. Okay, I'm just saying that your question is towards Gaza. This is not the issue. I think that the issue is actually the West Bank. I think the issue is Lebanon. I think the issue is the Middle East.
I'm going to ask you about that too.
I know. I just wanna raise the dilemma, because it's not only Gaza. It will have a huge impact on the West Bank. It will have a huge impact on the Palestinians in Jordan and in Lebanon. So whatever we do and whatever we implement in Gaza, it will impact us from the north and from the east and from Judea and Samaria. The reality in Gaza, there's a huge destruction there. Israel succeeded to defeat Hamas as a terror army, but not the ideology and not the terror groups. That as long as they are there, as long as they are negotiating, they will stay there. And I believe that we will not have a choice than to accept them as part of the solution, as it looks like right now. And I think that this is one of the biggest mistakes that we are doing right now. On one hand, we succeeded to achieve the impossible, the unbelievable. I never even dreamed in my I don't know, the best dreams ever that they will release the live hostages, and we achieved that thanks to President Trump and to this brilliant deal. But the price is strategically is going to be huge, really huge, and they will have to solve many problems in Gaza: water, electricity, houses, jobs, education, healthcare, etc., etc. It will take time, and as more time it will take, it will be better for us.
Well, one of the things that we're already seeing Hamas do just in recent days, they're accusing Israel of cutting off aid or denying aid. What are you here, despite the ceasefire, what are you hearing on the ground from Gazans, from Palestinians about the situation when it comes to the humanitarian aid? Is this just another round of the PR game that they're playing? Because from Israel's side and even from the U.S., they're confirming that aid is flowing freely. So what are you hearing on this issue?
Let me share a phone call I got 2.5 hours ago from a guy that called me and told me, Colin Grisha, please do me a favor. Can you help me? There's a truck of vegetables that I want to send to Gaza. And unfortunately, they asked that I will pay them 70,000 shekels. Just to pay to somebody that he will allow them to enter the truck live. Later I can send you the phone call. You can call him. And I got the phone call yesterday from Gaza, from a guy that I used to work with him. And he told me, Grisha, for any truck that you will be able to coordinate and help us to bring to Gaza, vegetables, it will be 70, 80 shekels that you will get. If it's clothes, shirts, trousers, whatever, you would be able to get something like 150,000 shekels per a truck. Now I'm asking you, who can pay such money? What is wrong here? What is wrong with us that we continue sending aid to Gaza, or we continue allowing aid to be entered to Gaza, knowing that they tax that, knowing that people are paying black money, illegal money to others, and the only ones who can afford such big, I would say, sums of money is only Hamas. They are the only ones who have the money. And what is going on in there is like Hamas renewed the tax collection. They started with renewing the executions. We saw that a few weeks ago. And then they renewed their, I would say, official police to create an illusion of law and order. But it's a lie. And they demanded that the UN would send the aid because it's simpler to steal from the UN. And there are no UN employees there from the United States or from, I don't know, Sweden. They're all locals. So it's like, letting the cat to keep the milk. I don't know if that's the way it's said in English. And it looks like, unfortunately, we are lying to ourselves. And I think that the best example is what is happening in Sudan. Come on, guys. It's like 100 and something thousand Christians were just butchered a few weeks ago, and nobody cares. Nobody complains about the amount of trucks being sent to Sudan. Nobody cares. Why? Because they are black people. And when it comes to Gaza, it's like, I don't understand what is wrong with all of us. And I see myself as part of the Western world. And I'm asking ourselves, what is wrong with us? This is a terror organization that just executed people a few weeks ago, and we all saw that. And nobody cares. And all we care about is what is the amount of trucks that the people of Gaza got, knowing that Hamas is stealing them, knowing that Hamas is paying the salaries to their own executors as a salary instead of $100, a few bags of flour, so they will be able to sell in the black market. And we all know that. It's like, again, what is wrong with us? Now, you can ask whoever you want, Emily. I have one advantage, that I'm in touch with people in Gaza even today. I'm talking to them. They are calling me. I'm in touch with people from Bet Hanun, from Rimal, from Khan Yunis, and Gazans that left to Egypt. And they all tell me, they all actually told me, what did you do? What is wrong with you? You were so close to help us and to eliminate this horrible enemy, and you just and you just gave up.
Well, you know, it's interesting.
Um,
It's interesting that you say that because it's similar sentiment on the ground inside Iran. Actually, Iranians are very frustrated because they felt the taste of freedom, and then we ended up stopping the war. So I am familiar with that. But I think you also brought up something interesting.
And in Lebanon, it's also the same thing, by
Yep.
the way.
Yep. You brought up something interesting about how they are already taxing the people in Gaza. And indeed, we saw reports in recent weeks of them charging a property tax for people whose homes have been destroyed. Like they're taxing literal tents that people are living in. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But I do want to ask you
They need
about.
income.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the West Bank. We know that this is another front that certainly threatens Israel. There's a lot of activity of different terror organizations there, and this is under the control for anyone watching of primarily the Palestinian Authority, although Hamas also threatens their rule. I want to ask you what your take is on the stability of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, particularly right now. Is this a body that Israel has potential to work with? Is there any future with them? And setting Gaza aside for the moment, just the front in the West Bank. We've seen terror organizations and the Islamic Republic try to fund organizations to funnel in weapons, even through Jordan. Is the Palestinian Authority even really in control?
Well, I'm gonna answer, Emily, but the answer will be like that, okay? If you don't mind, it will take me 2 minutes and I'll be done. We all heard about a word in Arabic that Hamas and people in Gaza and in the West Bank used. It's called muqawwama. I know that you heard about it. Now, what is muqawwama? Muqawwama, if you translate it to English, it will sound resistance. If you translate it to Hebrew, to what I understand, it will be terror. And what Hamas succeeded to do is they told the people that we chose the path of Muqawama, we chose the path of resistance, and this is the only way that we will be able to achieve our goals, free Palestine from the river to the sea. That's the thing. Fatah, Yasser Arafat, before Mahmoud Abbas, he at the beginning chose Oslo. He chose I would say, the solution in negotiation. Mahmoud Abbas declared that this would be the only way, and he is against the way of Muqawama. And the people asked him, okay, Mr. Abu Mazen, the president, what did you achieve? You achieved nothing. And what did Hamas achieve? They succeeded to kidnap Israelis. They succeeded to kidnap soldiers. They released prisoners. And actually, in our Western way in negotiating, we played it to the hands of Hamas to show them as the heroes of the Palestinian streets. Simple as it is. What way worked? The way of Muqawama. Now, just one comment. When you say Muqawama and its resistance, and people in the West repeat resistance, it brings you back in history to the word resistance. And the first time that we heard that we all used the word resistance was in movies of Second World War, the French resistance. It means the ones that are resistance are the ones who are fighting the horrible Nazi enemy. So the subconscious of the West was created for the last 30 years that Hamas is a good thing because they are the resistance. Let's be aware about that. Now, Fatah in the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority, it's all about Mahmoud Abbas. Okay, he's 89 now. Okay, we both agree that eventually he will leave us naturally, or somebody will help him. That's how it works here. And what will be the day after? And we see the events since May 2021 from the fourth round of escalation, Garden of the Walls with Hamas, that we see, I would say, terror, or I would say the third Intifada started in May 2021. And we see more and more Fatah supporters that are actually terror groups. And this is why Israel entered to another a huge operation in the West Bank to deal with those terror groups. But the moment Mahmoud Abbas dies, I believe that also the dream will die. And people will say, okay, the only way that we believe that we choose is the way of Muqawama. Because Fatah will also be forced to choose their way, and the way will be Muqawama, resistance. So we will see Hamas, Fatah, and Page all adopting the, I would say, the narrative of Muqawama. And the outcome of this process will be a Palestinian civil war. And in this Palestinian civil war that we already saw signs in Gaza, by the way, with all those militias, some of them Fatah, some of them others, fighting each other. And we will see that process in the West Bank the moment Mahmoud Abbas leaves us. But then the competition will be between them about Muqawama and about who is better. And to judge somebody who is better is who kills more Jews. So the future that I at least see is that Fatah losing power, the PA losing power, they continue losing the power. And I don't see a leader that will be able to move or enter into Mahmoud Abbas' shoes, and he is already weak. And I don't see them avoiding from choosing the narrative of Muqawama. So actually, as for now, okay, as for now, unfortunately, I'm pessimist, and the only thing that I see in the West Bank is the third Intifada in high volume, unless we do something right now, and we can. And I would say a battle between the Palestinian fractions about the hegemony in the Palestinian society, or who will lead them. Will it be Hamas, Fatah, Page, and the only way is who will execute, or who will be, I would say, in our understanding, who will be a bigger terrorists, who will have more blood on their hands. Will it be Fatah, Page, or Hamas? And they will celebrate, of course, dancing on our blood.
Well, I want to ask you, one of the things that happened in the past 2 years is we saw a lot of other countries, even some countries that were considered to be allies of Israel, recognizing a Palestinian state. What is the impact on the Palestinian Authority, on the terror groups that you mentioned in the coming months and years? What is the impact of this international recognition of a Palestinian state? Is it even possible that that could work in Israel's benefit if they're being held to the same standards of a state internationally, or is it disastrous as so many Israeli officials have stated and have implied thus far?
It's a declaration of typical Westerns who understand nothing about the Middle East, unfortunately. And it's connected exactly to what I told you at the beginning of a victory in the eyes of the beholder. It's like if they led a massacre October 7th and they are fighting us for 2 years, and somebody else declares, I don't know, that he will recognize a Palestinian state, automatically the people will look at who? At Abu Mazen, that they consider him as a thief, as a corrupted leader, or they will look at Hamas and they will say, oh, because of the Muqawama that they are holding, because of this death narrative, and because of what they did on October 7th, and this amazing victory of this long 2 years war, this is why the West is forcing Israel to kneel and to accept a Palestinian state. Actually, the West, who understands, unfortunately, those people who understand nothing about the Middle East, are actually pouring content to the victory that Hamas is declaring against the strongest military in the Middle East. Simple. It's simple. And unfortunately, we don't understand. I do understand that. I hope that the other countries of our allies will understand that also.
Now, what can Israel do if you could give the Israeli government a plan for the next 6 months? What can Israel do both to deal with the threats in the West Bank, the problems of the Palestinian Authority, the situation in Gaza, and even broader than that, dealing with Lebanon and the head of the snake, the Islamic Republic of Iran? What should Israel be doing in the next few months?
First of all, we need to rest. We need to make sure that all the hostages are back home, and we need to heal. We need to make sure that our society, that our nation heals a little bit, reorganize. Number one. Number two, we need to improve our relations with our allies. And I think that our government knows how to do it. Any government, okay? It has nothing to do to the current government or any other government. Number two. Number three, intelligence. We need to be smarter next time, and we need to be way better with our abilities to have better and better intelligence. So next time, when the next rounds will start, we will hit them in the weakest spot, like we did in Lebanon, okay, with the beepers and whatever. And I think we can arrange things if it's in Lebanon, if it's in Iran or other places. And then we need to make sure that this victory of Hamas, in their eyes, will be somehow deleted. And I think that we could do that. It's not late, but we could do that, and we can do that. We need to take the weapons from Hamas, and I want to be clear about it. When I say weapons, it's not the RPGs, it's not the AK-47, it's the people, because they want only one thing. Hamas, they need people, so they will be able to control them. If you take the people, so you will not give them ammunition as human shields. You will not give them ammunition to blame us with a humanitarian crisis. And you will not give them the ones that will vote for them. So if we understand that, so why not implement a plan that Gazans will not stay in Gaza? And I'm not saying that they will leave Gaza forever. I'm not saying that. I think it was a mistake that those plans were even shown. I said during the war few times, even if the price will be to build temporary cities in Israel, not only Egypt, in Israel, leaving Hamas by themselves in Gaza, they will have one of two options: or to raise the white flag or to die. Simple as it is. And yes, the people of Gaza would be checked, each one of them, one by one. We will make sure that they are not terrorists, and we have the abilities to do that. And we will provide them their needs, by the way, exactly what we are providing right now in Gaza, but in a way better conditions. And less, I would say, less trucks that Hamas will steal and sell it in the black market. It will reach the people. So if we really want to help the people of Gaza, let's help them to leave Gaza to temporary towns, neighborhoods, cities, okay? Guaranteeing to them with the mediators that it will be a temporary situation, a temporary solution until we will defeat Hamas in Gaza, or they can leave Gaza, we don't care. And then we will start the reconstruction process in Gaza.
I just want to ask, how can you build a policy like this when you're dealing with such a strong narrative of subversion from Qatar, from the Islamic Republic, that's parroted by Al Jazeera, that's parroted even by BBC, as we've seen? Because the natural response that we're going to see from the anti-Israel crowd is that that's ethnic cleansing. Despite the fact that you're talking about a temporary relocation in order to preserve lives, they will call it ethnic cleansing.
No. It's not relocation. Don't use that. Don't you use that. It's not relocation. Let's be smart. We don't need to be right. Let's be smart. Let's use the same narrative that they're using. We need to help the people of Gaza. We need to make sure that there will be no humanitarian crisis. We need to help to educate the future generations of the kids of Gaza. We need to support the poor families of Gaza. Let's use the same slogans, the same narrative, the same plan. Okay, let's use the same tool that they are using against us, that it will help and support us. They want to avoid from a crisis. Let's make sure that there will be no crisis. We are only helping the people of Gaza. That's what I'm saying, Emily. We need to be smart. We don't need to be right. And if it's about time that we implement a plan that will be smart and not right, It's not about politics. It's not about the right wing of Israel that we want to build settlements. It's not about that. It's about helping the people of Gaza, the real people of Gaza, that are not terrorists. Just imagine, you asked me earlier, what is the situation in Gaza on the ground? No schools, no water, sewage all over, diseases. We have already kids for the last 2 years that did not study. They already skipped 2 years in education. We need to close the gap. We have a lot to do. And we have many, many, many amazing people all around the world that want to help the Gazans. So let's bring them. So they will help the Gazans in temporary towns in Israel that will be surrounded with fences, that we will make sure that it will be only for Gazans, okay? And meanwhile, we will make sure that Hamas will not be able to kill them in the future. We will make sure that Hamas will not be able to steal taxes from them. We will make sure that Hamas will not execute them in the future. I think you understand the point.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's an interesting proposal, but we do have to wrap up here. So, Colonel Grisha Yakubovich, I want to thank you for joining us on Axis of Truth, shedding some light on the next steps in the Gaza Strip and beyond. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
And joining us now with more on the latest developments in the region and beyond is the spokeswoman for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and our very own former ILTV news anchor, Shosh Bedrosian. So, Shosh, so wonderful to see you.
Lidar, thanks for having me.
So the Prime Minister is scheduled in a short time to visit the White House at the invitation of U.S. President Donald Trump. Can you share with us what is going to top the agenda on this visit?
Sure. So what I can share with your viewers, who I know are listening, is that the meeting will be taking place December 29th. That's a Monday. And they will be discussing the future steps, the phases, and the international stabilization force of the ceasefire plan, essentially the future of what this plan could look like. Now, let's remember where we started. We got to this point in time where we have a ceasefire in place. It's been in place, Lidar, for more than 60 days right now. And it all started with the stronghold of our idea of soldiers going into the Gaza City stronghold, a decision the Prime Minister made. And by doing that, we put immense pressure on Hamas. Not only that, but the diplomatic pressure that President Trump put on Hamas with the help from Arab countries and Muslim countries, we got to the point where Hamas had no choice. So together, we reached this point of a ceasefire. And they will be discussing, of course, like I said, the next phases. Now, we have one more hostage that is still in captivity right now. It is Ron Gvili. He is a hero of Israel. He fought near Kibbutz Alomim. He is our last hostage in captivity. Hamas has delayed giving his body back. It's been more than 61 days. They've been stalling to give his body back. Under this 20-point plan, Lidar, it is a commitment Hamas made. They would release all of our hostages within 72 hours. Here we are, 61 days later, and we still have a hostage in captivity. The Prime Minister has made it very, very clear we will get Ron Gvili's body back home. And moving on to phase two, we will ensure that Hamas is demilitarized and they have no arms. Gaza is demilitarized. Ensure that Hamas has no future inside of Gaza.
And now, speaking of phase two, I mean, how is the Prime Minister navigating the, let's call it the internationalization of this conflict? I mean, it's something that Israel has avoided for many, many years, but now with President Trump's close involvement and the expected military presence of other countries, how has this sort of changed the dynamics and the reality here on the ground?
Look, Lidar, we're at a critical point in this ceasefire because in phase two, there's a commitment right now that Hamas will demilitarize. For many, many years, as so many Israelis know, Jews know in the diaspora around the world, Hamas has used Gaza as a launching pad to conduct terror attacks against the Jewish state, the only Jewish state in the world, and Jews who live here and anyone who lives here, not just Jews. There have been so many victims of Hamas. So to ensure this, that Israel has a safe border when it comes to Gaza, this is a priority. And we're at this pivotal point where we can make this happen, right? So to demilitarize Gaza, to make sure that there is no future of Hamas inside of the Gaza Strip, and to ensure that Hamas isn't here to ruin their own people's future. That's what phase 2 will also include. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu has also made it very clear there will be a phase 3, which will be to de-radicalize the Gaza Strip, to ensure that education, proper education, is coming back to the people of Gaza, who have been, unfortunately, had to live under this Hamas regime for far too long, and to ensure that they also have a better future as well. But in terms of your question, let's talk about, like I said, how we got here. It's the immense pressure that was put on Hamas when it comes to the Arab states, the Muslim countries, from President Trump's help, in addition to Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision to go into Gaza City. All of that got us to the point of this ceasefire. And it is holding. It is holding, and it certainly is holding. And we want to just make sure our last hostage, Ron Gvili, comes back home for a proper burial.
And President Trump announced, the 20-point peace plan. He announced and also hinted towards a major peace deal that would sweep the region. But since that time, we haven't seen any new countries join the Abraham Accords. And as we've just been talking, there are still major obstacles to reaching phase 2 and, of course, phase 3 of the deal. So where do we stand today? I mean, are there ongoing diplomatic talks with Saudi Arabia, for example? I mean, what is the status of this, the Abraham Accords and this big peace deal?
Sure. Well, Lizar, as you know, all good things take time. And let's go back to just the history of the Abraham Accords. No one believed that Israel would actually get peace with 4 Arab states in the Abraham Accords. Prime Minister Netanyahu says right now there's a very strong interest to advance that peace, the peace in this region and even potentially outside of this region. And it's peace through strength, right? It's making sure that the security of Israel is never relinquished. And that's a top priority for the Prime Minister, is to make sure that all borders of the state of Israel are protected from the north, the south, and all of its remaining borders. Remember, we had an Iranian terror axis surrounding us from the north with Hezbollah, even the Houthis inside of Yemen, and also, of course, Hamas inside of the Gaza Strip. We have severely cut these terror axes off, the Iranian terror axis and these terror groups that are funded by Iran themselves. And the Prime Minister wants to expand peace, and that's what he hopes to achieve. The Prime Minister believes we can extend the Abraham Accords, not just with one country, with many countries, including Islamic countries outside of the region as well. And this is what he recently said.
Shosh Bedrosian, thank you so much for joining us. It's always so wonderful to see you.
Thanks so much, Lidar.
And now joining us to discuss the U.S.-Israel relations and the Prime Minister's upcoming trip to the United States is former MK and former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren. Michael, thank you for joining us today. Always a pleasure to have you on. First, I want to ask you, what is your prediction for the Prime Minister's upcoming visit to the U.S. and how will it impact the U.S.-Israel relations?
Well, good to be with you, Emily, as always. Listen, prophecy is not my strong point. I'm a historian, and I have enough problems predicting the past. But if we can base, Netanyahu's 5th meeting with this president on previous meetings, we can get maybe a good sense of what the meeting is about and what could be the outcome of the meeting. And by the way, there have been different meetings. There have been strained meetings. There have been very friendly meetings. This meeting comes in the background of the 20-point peace proposal advanced by the Trump administration, signed by virtually every nation in the region, with notable exception being Iran. And but the big problem, that in itself is a tremendous accomplishment, the return of all of our hostages, except for one. I'm still wearing this pin because Ron Gvili's remains have not been returned. But having said it's a great diplomatic achievement, but it's stuck. It's stuck between basically point 1 and point 2. Point 2 is the disarmament of Hamas, and it hasn't happened. And Netanyahu is going to try to clarify how that might happen. And if the United States doesn't have a clear path forward for doing it, and from my best understanding, the goal is to get Turkey and Qatar to squeeze Hamas and get it to give up its weapons in some way, and hopefully not in just a performative way, but a substantive way. If that's not going to happen, what is Israel to do? And what are the next steps forward with regard to Gaza? And it's many, many steps. It's the deployment of the so-called International Stabilization Force. It's the fate of the 53% of Hamas, which is of Gaza, which is under Israeli control. Many, many questions. And beyond that, if you have patience, Emily, it's Lebanon, Syria, and Iran.
Well, you know, as you mentioned, Israel is in a very difficult position with this Gaza plan. Still, no country stepping up to be a part, at least forward-facing, of this international force. No answer as to who will disarm Hamas and how. What are Israel's theoretical options, both practically and diplomatically?
Well, practically, Israel could resume the fighting with American backing. The Israeli army, Israeli defense forces could continue their advance into those areas under Hamas control to root out Hamas at tremendous cost in terms of our soldiers' lives, even Palestinian lives, and certainly in terms of Israel's image in the world. And Israel would never do that without express backing of this administration. I don't think we would do it on our own. The other option, in many ways is the easier option, is just to sort of adjust to a new status quo, where Hamas is basically bottled in this small area of Gaza. It cannot easily get rearmed, cannot easily get money into the Strip. People there live in misery with no hope of improvement. And to just leave that status quo and hope that Hamas will not be able to sort of revamp its missile firing or rocket firing capabilities and once again open fire on Gaza communities or as far north as Ashkelon and Ashdod. That would be the hope. And you take it from there and see, okay, what can we do if the status quo is maintained? Can we advance toward the goal, for example, of expanding the Abraham Accords to include Saudi Arabia and other Sunni countries?
Well, speaking of diplomatic pressure, we're on the heels of the Doha Forum in Qatar, where no Israelis were present. We see increasing soft power efforts from Qatar to influence the West. And based on the Trump administration's recent statement, it seems to be working. What are the ramifications of this for Israel?
There are many. We have succeeded in humbling to a large degree the Shiite axis in the Middle East, run by Iran and Hezbollah. And we run the risk of replacing the Shiite axis with the Sunni axis, which is Qatar and Turkey. Turkey is demanding a role in Gaza. It appears that at least parts of the Trump administration support that desire on the part of the Turks. Qatar is in there. For Israel to put Turkey and Qatar into Gaza is a very serious strategic threat to us, I think to the entire region. And we must resist it to the greatest degree possible, all the while doing our utmost to remain on the same page with the Trump administration.
Now, before I let you go, I do want to get your take also on this raid of the UNRWA offices in East Jerusalem. I mean, the UN body has already been outlawed here in Israel for their associations with Hamas, but they've continued to operate in some capacity. Is this raid, the first step in shutting down UNRWA for good?
Let us hope. Let us hope. UNRWA is a source and a force for continued conflict in the Middle East. It teaches tens and tens of thousands of young people not to make peace with Israel, but to continue the battle for quote-unquote return. It is staffed, we know it's been staffed in no significant measure by active terrorists. We know that it is the only organization like it in the world that perpetuates the Palestinian refugee issue by designating the descendants of Palestinian refugees from 1948. We're talking about grandchildren, great-grandchildren, still have refugee status, even if they have citizenship in another country like Jordan. Perpetuates the conflict. So the degree to which Israel can disband, dismantle, and get rid of UNRWA will be good for Israel, but ultimately good for the Palestinians themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we have also seen, of course, that there are several countries who, some of which for the first time have announced that they will not be funding UNRWA, this organization that is so controversial, as you mentioned, and such an unfortunate thing, given that the mandate for the United Nations itself is something that is honorable, yet something that's been so perverted, as we have seen throughout this war, unfortunately. We do have to wrap up, but I want to thank you, former ambassador and former MK, Michael Oren, for joining us today.
Well, joining us now is Dr. Harel Chorev, senior researcher at the Moshe Dayan Center at Tel Aviv University and an expert in Palestinian affairs. Thanks for joining us. Well,
thank you for having me.
Well, phase one is nearly over. The transition to phase two should be underway. Let me start this way. Phase two requires disarming Hamas. Is there any force that you can foresee, U.S. commanded or otherwise, that will take away the weapons of Hamas?
My short answer would be no. And I'm pretty sure you could recognize the skepticism in Netanyahu's voice as well. It's undoable unless an Israeli force will do it by itself. I don't see at the moment any power on earth that will be willingly doing this mission. And I think that if we want to understand Netanyahu's strategy vis-a-vis the Gaza Strip at the moment is let the Americans try, trial and error, whatever they want, and eventually to come up with the understanding that there's no other way but rather to let the IDF dismantle Hamas. I hear it also from people here around the government, around the administration, in Washington, in my visits. So unfortunately, I don't see any other alternative.
Let me ask you this. Hamas leaders and Palestinian Authority have reportedly held meetings in recent months about governing Gaza during phase two. Are they heading toward an agreement between themselves? What is it? And could it be anything in any way acceptable to Israel?
Well, the president, the chairman of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, clearly said several times that he won't agree to any arrangement that does not disarm Hamas and lead to a solution in which the Palestinian Authority will be the one, the sole, I would say, sovereign, including weapons. So unless they will come up with an idea of how to resolve it, and you know what, I see already signs to such an agreement. I'm not sure they will reach to such an agreement, but I see that Hamas is trying to create something that the Palestinian Authority will be able to swallow. But unless they will reach such an agreement, I don't see the president of the Palestinian Authority signing on it. He was very consistent with his rejection of any solution that doesn't include a real disarmament of Hamas. And not because of us, of course, only because of his interest. We need to remember what Hamas did to the Palestinian Authority in 2007 with the brutal takeover of Gaza Strip is a very, very strong painful memory for any Fatah member.
There are reports of a potential Netanyahu-al-Sisi summit. Egypt shares a border with Gaza, and they could be part of phase two and of a stabilization force. But will al-Sisi even come to the table? And could decisions reached in a meeting, potentially between Netanyahu and al-Sisi, impact post-war Gaza?
Well, Egypt is very important here, both because of the Rafah crossing, which I guess, my educated guess would be that will be the main subject that they will discuss. But also, Egypt has the strongest interest here in terms of who will reconstruct Gaza Strip, and Egypt really hope that it will boost its economy through its constructions company, raw material, anything that will go through Egypt, heavy machinery, anything which is connected to it. Egypt is supposed to be the main beneficiary of it. So these are the two things here. This is why Egypt would like to see this war over. Nevertheless, I think Netanyahu will stay firm on the Israeli interest in regard of what we can't accept in this regard, which is, of course, the remaining of Hamas and the dismantling of Turkey. Stationing Turkish soldiers.
Turkish soldiers, we'll talk about that if that becomes a reality. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm sorry we're out of time, Dr. Chorev.
Thank you very much.
To discuss the progress towards phase 2 of this Gaza deal is the director of AJC Israel, as well as the former IDF spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Avital Leibovich. Avital, thanks so much for joining us today. Pleasure to have you here on ILTV. To start, what are your thoughts on this most recent push to move to phase 2 without the return, essentially, of the final hostage?
So, as far as I know, there are a lot of actors here in the scene working at full power in order to try and facilitate and build the mechanism that will be here in Gaza in what we call the day after. But the day after, as you know, Emily, is not really a day. It's not a week. It's not a month. It's not a year. We're looking at a long period of time. On the other hand, Israel has zero motivation to deal with sewage, electricity, water, education, health for the people of Gaza. And in some ways, it will be more convenient to have some sort of a force which will manage the Gaza Strip. The question is, what force will it be? Because I don't see a situation right now that countries, Arab or others, will send security forces to be on the ground in Gaza when Hamas is still there. So I'm not sure we're that close to phase 2 as some of the media outlets actually hint that we are.
I want to talk a little bit about this international peacekeeping force or whatever you want to call it. Who is going to actually be a part of this, and how should Israel respond to Turkey's demand that we most recently saw to effectively have some kind of troops effectively on Israel's border?
With all honesty, I don't really see Israel agreeing, to host Turkish security forces on its border. There are two countries in the world that are hosting Hamas officially. First one is Qatar, the second one is Turkey. Israel worked very hard in the past 2 years to demolish the Shiite axis led by Iran. And obviously, Israel is not interested to create an alternative axis led by Turkey and Qatar. So I don't see that happening. We are looking, however, at some sort of a security buffer that Israel needs to create. I think this is far more important than any foreign security forces on the ground. This is the most critical thing for Israel, especially looking forward, because Israel is very much interested for the people who evacuated from the envelope of Gaza to return one day, hopefully soon.
Now, given the fact that Hamas has claimed repeatedly they will not disarm, why are we seeing, some of them at least, pushing for an entrance into this phase 2?
Well, the answer is very clear to me. Obviously, Hamas wants to show some sort of advantages, some sort of gains for the people in Gaza. And in phase 2, after disarming Hamas, there will be some sort of the beginning of renovating of Gaza. And obviously, Hamas is keen to enter that phase. However, we need to, again, keep in mind that the day after is not really a day after. By the way, I'm an optimist, and I do think that education is critical to change the hearts and minds of the people who live in Gaza. But this kind of education will take at least 1 to 2 generations, and Israel needs the moderate Arab countries to be a part of this future, as part of this stabilization. We are not there. We're not close yet. We are still waiting for the last hostage.
Now, what are Israel's options in terms of defense? We see tremendous international pressure on Israel in regards to this ceasefire. Already accusations flying left, right, and sideways, even when Israel is exercising self-defense. So when it comes to the disarming or removal of power of Hamas, can Israel really do anything given the international spotlight?
So the question is how much time Israel really has from the perspective of the international community. Are we talking about weeks? Are we talking about months? Israel's main concern is the security, and it will not move anywhere until we are assured, Israel is assured, that the border is safe and sound and that there will not be any additional rockets flying towards Israel. I'll remind the viewers that the first rocket, and maybe I'll remind the international community at the same time, that the first rocket that has been fired at Israel from Gaza was in 2001, namely 24 years ago. And obviously, this is not a situation that any country could agree to, and there is no motivation to return to that place. So I don't see really an option of Israel giving up its security for a second phase at this point of time.
All right, well, we'll follow that closely, and hopefully we're both wrong on that front. I want to thank you for joining us, Lieutenant Colonel Avital Leibovich.
Thank you.
Three million Israelis are dealing with trauma since October 7th. To help Israelis heal, Hadassah is there, with the largest rehabilitation center in Jerusalem, world-renowned medical centers, and youth villages. It's said, saving a life saves the world. Imagine helping millions. This is Hadassah, a life-changing force in Israel and the world.
To ILTV on the Hour. We're live from Israel, bringing you the biggest headlines of the region. I'm Deborah Klein, and here is your roundup of the latest developments coming out of Israel. Trump told reporters in a press conference in the White House that the world leaders set to serve in the Gaza Board of Peace will be announced early next month. Trump added that a variety of leaders from different nations have expressed a desire to take part. Have a listen.
When do you expect to announce members of the Board of Peace, the leadership of that?
Well, we'll do it early next year, and the Board of Peace are going to, it'll be one of the most legendary boards ever. Everybody wants to be on it. It's mostly going to be, I guess, you know, we weren't thinking about it that way, but they want to all do it. Basically, it'll be the heads of the most important countries.
Mr. President,
They all want to be on. It wasn't really planned. We thought we were going to get very distinguished people that do that kind of thing for a living. But really, it looks like it's turning out to be they want to be on. The heads, the kings and the presidents, prime ministers, they all want to be on the Board of Peace.
And at the same time, visiting in Israel to advance Trump's 20-point Gaza plan, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, warned that allowing Hamas to survive would be, quote, insanity. Waltz was a key figure in pushing Trump's Gaza plan to be approved by the UN Security Council, and he is now in Israel to follow up on the ground. Speaking alongside President Isaac Herzog, Waltz said this.
Well, what has been clear, and I want to be clear, is Hamas has to go. And the President Trump has been clear that's going to happen the easy way or the hard way. But there will not be any more Hamas. And what we cannot do, what we're determined to avoid, is what I call the definition of insanity. Somehow Hamas is allowed to survive, they rebuild, the international community pours billions into reconstruction, Hamas attacks again, and Israel has no choice but to respond, and here we are in this cycle of insanity. The president, his team's determined to break that, and one of the many reasons I'm here is to see that implemented.
And in a different story, last night, Israel reopened the Allenby crossing that's on the border with Jordan after months of continuous terror attacks in the crossing bridge. Trucks were seen crossing from Jordan into Israel after confirmation from a security official that the border was now fully operating for the purpose of humanitarian aid and goods. Israel says the crossing will now operate under tightened security, including enhanced screenings of trucks and drivers and the deployment of a dedicated security force. The Allenby Bridge is one of the most strategic crossings in the region, built during the British Mandate and sitting on the Jordan River. It serves as the main trade corridor between Israel and Jordan. And yet, the crucial border remains a hotspot for terrorism and a threat to Israeli troops who are stationed at the border. And Storm Byron is picking up here in Israel. MADA, Israel's medical emergency services, are confirming that dozens of vehicles were reported as trapped in massive puddles on some of the freeways in central Israel, as mass flooding continues, with Israel's drainage system not keeping up with the amount of downpour. And speaking of flooding, a famous supermarket chain, Rami Levy, in the city of Yavne has been completely flooded. Footage on your screens now shows images of the flooding. All of the workers and shoppers have been evacuated accordingly, and Israeli police are on high alert as earlier today, a 53-year-old man was found dead in his apartment in Netanya with signs of hypothermia. Flooding is continuing across Israel, and the Israeli public is being urged to not only stay safe, but avoid leaving their homes unless absolutely necessary, as plenty of cars have been stuck in the roads in massive puddles, and now even the shops are flooding too. And that's a wrap for this edition of ILTV on the Hour. Don't forget to scan the QR code that's on your screen for all of the latest updates coming out of Israel. I'm Devo Klein, and thank you so much for watching.
How do you tailor matchmaking for driven professionals?
There's been countless times when I'm talking to a single and they're almost embarrassed to say, hey, I'm so successful in my life, I'm successful building a business, I'm successful in so many aspects, but why can't I be successful in finding a relationship? And I'm like, listen, it's because you don't have a strategy. Going on every single date and swiping and who's next, that's not a strategy, that's a numbers game. I don't believe in the numbers game. I believe in implementing a strategy to find your person.
Welcome to the Jewish Matchmaker podcast on ILTV. I'm Aliza Ben Shalom, your host. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Shayna Tibi, a seasoned, professionally trained matchmaker currently based in northern Israel, with a background in social work, relationship strategy, and networked matchmaking. She joins us today as we explore her own matchmaking journey and her collaborative matchmaking methods. Shayna, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I am so happy to have you and to see you, because we don't get to see each other so often, even though we both live in Israel. Can you tell me a little bit about what first drew you to professional matchmaking and what made you combine social work with relationship coaching and matchmaking?
Great question. So, your personal journey always leads you to your ideal profession. So it's a little bit of a personal journey mixed with arriving at matchmaking. So yes, my background was in social work, and you know the story about how I met my husband, but I'll give the abridged version. So I was working as a social worker in the U.S., locked my keys in my car, called for a locksmith, who pulls up? An Israeli guy. So
how to find your husband, just lock your keys in the car.
Nailed it. And so he opened, the keys to my car, and then, one thing led to another.
And the keys to your heart.
Of course. And so through negotiations and dating and whatnot with him, we went back and forth between Florida and Israel, and that's part of my journey to becoming a matchmaker, because what happened was a bunch of the social workers were laid off, and I was one of them, as you know. So then he's like, well, I'm going home. Do you want to live in Israel? I was like, okay. So
wow.
Yeah, and then we went back and forth for a bunch of years. So I was focusing on his businesses. I was helping him elevate his businesses until I realized not only am I a social worker, I'm a connector. I love introducing people to each other for various things. I became very involved with network marketing, relationship building, and then it just became obvious. I can't work, live, have a relationship, and raise kids with the same person. So I stepped back from the working with him, and that's how I found matchmaking, where it wasn't just, hey, I love to connect people. I was like, this can be a business. This is a business. So that was my evolution into matchmaking.
So you took something that was of interest and in alignment with what you were doing, and you said, this is where I'm going to dedicate my full energy, and it's going to save my marriage because we can't do everything together.
Both.
Right. So you said that dating is networking and not hunting. So how does this mindset shift help singles?
Yeah, 100% it helps singles because people have this hunting mindset when they're dating. They're hunting the people in the room. They're hunting the people online, at the club, wherever they're dating. They're hunting their friends, friends of friends. But what I like to tell people, and I know we have like an agreement in a way on this, flip the switch from hunting to networking, because you want to be your best self wherever you go. You want to be a referable human being wherever you are. And so if you meet somebody and you're like, oh, this isn't my person, but wow, that guy would be a great match for, my cousin, so on and so forth. You're going to be memorable. So the more you're networking, whether you're deepening your networks or widening them, the more you're networking, the more you're going to be on a path of finding your person instead of hunting the people in the room.
It sounds like also you're telling singles, even if this person isn't for you, you can become a matchmaker too. You can send them to one of your friends, and that's part of the matchmaking network where we all provide different matches. I think it's fascinating.
Amen.
Can you share an example of a match that you created, maybe that you were a little bit skeptical about, but that actually blossomed into something beautiful?
Absolutely. So this is a match we made, Aliza.
I love this story.
I'll tell you about this one. So, at different stages in your life, sometimes dating it has seasons, so to speak. So we made a match of a more mature, perek bet, they say here in Israel, a more mature match. Divorced, they already had kids, they already had lived their life to a certain point. And so she came, wanting a match in regards to he needed to meet both her sense of adventure, both her, religious affiliations. But, there was a lot of things that she wanted in line, including a certain type of wealth. People want what they want.
You live at the comfortable lifestyle that you're accustomed to.
Absolutely. So we found her a match. We found her this guy who hit so many, checked so many boxes that she wanted. But at first we were like, I'm not sure if it's going to work because, he's in New York, she's in Jerusalem. But he's like, but I also live in Jerusalem. And she's like, but I also live in New York. So in the beginning, we were a little skeptical because we weren't sure about the age. Could both of them release certain things in order to see that this was going to be a great union? And they did. And Mazel Tov. They were married in, April?
They got married this year.
Amazing.
Spectacular. Matchmaking is this ancient thing, right? We've gone all the way back in the Torah to the beginning of time where God created the first match with Adam and Eve, and it continued since then. And it's evolved into this professional matchmaking. And I don't think a lot of people are familiar with the professional matchmaking network. I myself did not start out in that network. I started out in the Shadchan network, and I learned all about it. So can you educate our listeners a little bit? What is the professional matchmaking network? What does it mean to be involved with it? How many people are involved with this? Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So, most people, especially Jews worldwide, understand about the Shadchan network because, people are, it's the faith-based, it's everything. So I also am part of the International Matchmaking Associations. There's a couple big ones. They collaborate. It's all about collaboration. So, for example, most matchmakers have their databases. Most matchmakers have clients that have hired them to advocate for them to find their ideal mate in life. I don't do that in isolation. No matchmaker does that in isolation. We do this with each other. That's my favorite thing about matchmaking, not only making the match, which is an amazing feeling, but the collaboration and the collaborative efforts that we have together. So what makes the association important is that we all have the same ethics, standards, best practices, groups. We have retreats. We have conferences like the one, in London, in New York, Philly. We go to all the conferences. So it's important to have a community of professional matchmakers to make sure that you're doing the best job for your clients.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the things that's special is that we do often work a little bit in isolation, meaning many of us work from home. But what's fascinating is that we are so interconnected, and it's not just with the person next door or in the next city, but literally internationally and globally. Can you share a story about collaboration that led perhaps to a successful match with you, whether it was across countries or language barriers? What are the types of things that you're seeing and dealing with?
Oh my God, wow, absolutely. So in terms of collaboration, I kind of have two answers for this. So I'll start with the collaboration. So I have this client currently. This is a current story, an amazing, darling guy in New York, modern Orthodox. He's got a lot going on for him. And so I've been recruiting, screening, and vetting appropriate matches for him. He's been on a few dates, close, but, no cigar, so they say. And I reached out to one of our matchmaker friends in Philly, and she knew one of the Rebbitzin from the town. And anyway, she's like, well, what about this woman? So I'm like, great, let's make a proposal here. So not only are they hitting it off, they had a weekend together, and now they're an exclusive couple. And I'm like, fingers crossed, like this is heading somewhere,
We often talk about 6 degrees of separation in matchmaking, and in the Jewish world, sometimes it's only 1 or 2. So I love that story where a matchmaker led to a Rebbitzin, led to a single, led to a couple that, please God, will find their way to the chuppah. I hope.
Amen. We're professional Jewish geographers.
Right. Exactly. One of the things that's unique about being a matchmaker in Israel is all of the language challenges. So can you share a little bit about the language barriers or challenges, or do you have any stories? I know sometimes I once had somebody who he spoke Hebrew, she spoke English, neither spoke the other, and I said, so why do you like each other? Like, what is it? Can you tell us about some language challenges?
Definitely. I could speak about my own language challenge.
Oh, that's right. Your husband's Israeli. Start with you. That's great.
Part of it. That's part of it. I think it's bigger than specific language. I speak Hebrew, he speaks English, more or less, but I think it's different than the specific language. I think it's ideologies and the way people are raised and concepts. And sometimes they don't always translate how you think they're going to translate.
What I said is not what you heard, and definitely not what you understood.
Absolutely. Like when I'm screening and vetting for clients here in Israel. So let's say I have a new Anglo client, a new, Ole here in Israel, and I am screening and vetting. A lot of the times, people here are just more used to casual kind of dating. Even if they're dating for marriage, it's more casual. People will just tell me, just send me her Insta. I'm like, that's not how I work.
We're going to be a little more professional than that.
Exactly. It's very casual. So for me to, even if I think the match is a good match, I need to re-educate the Israeli market in order for them to realize that there's value in what I'm doing, because they're just so used to, who's next, what's next, the Tinder, the apps. There's nothing wrong with Tinder or apps. I'm not bashing any app whatsoever. But the mentality of, just send me her information, and if I want to contact her, I'll contact her. And I'm having a more formal process.
And the language, like sometimes, is there like a miscommunication? Like they said, let's meet, and so I'm ready for a date, and then they never ask me out. Or like, what do we encounter? You have people that are speaking French and English and Hebrew and Russian and Spanish, and you name it. We have languages in abundance here.
That's true.
What are some of those just like those moments that are just so awkward, and then afterwards you're like, oh, now I understand. Like, what?
I have to say, it happens more often than not that when I set a Zoom date, it's not a date, it's a Zoom schedule with me, because I'm supposed to screen and vet somebody, they think it's the date.
Oh, okay. There you go. That is a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm going out on a date and I show up and I see you and I'm like, that's not who I was looking forward to meeting.
No, I'm the matchmaker to see if this is my team, to see if you should go on the date.
Right. How do you tailor matchmaking for driven professionals? I think in the modern day, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, business people, doctors, lawyers. People are very busy in their lives, and they have extremely demanding schedules. And in terms of making time in their life for somebody else, how do you help them to manage matchmaking and manage the matchmaking process to be successful and make a space in their life for somebody to come in?
That is everything you just said. So what I do, that's one of the specialties. I work with ambitious singles who they have a full-time job. They're busy, they're going. So on one hand, they might want to outsource that to a professional because I am cutting out the initial, their search. I'm doing their search for them. At the same time, we also have the be your own matchmaker kind of concept where for me, it's all about teaching singles about strategy. There's been countless times when I'm talking to a single and they're almost embarrassed to say, hey, I'm so successful in my life. I'm successful building a business. I'm successful in so many aspects, but why can't I be successful in finding a relationship? And they say it almost embarrassingly. And I'm like, listen, it's because you don't have a strategy. You don't have the dating strategy. And going on every single date and swiping and who's next, that's not a strategy. That's a numbers game. I don't believe in the numbers game. I believe in implementing a strategy to find your person.
So let's take an example. I'm a busy professional. I come to you and you're telling me you have all these strategies. Do you have one thing, maybe one of the most common things that is the first thing that you implement for a busy professional?
Absolutely. The first thing is to get clear on your list. What are you looking for? What do you bring to the table? It can't all be about what you're looking for.
Not just what you're looking for. What do you offer?
Who are you?
Right.
Exactly. What are you bringing to the table? Because that's who you want to attract. Of course, I have them have the list. I have the must-haves, the nice-to-haves, the deal breakers, because people need to go into dating with some type of list, not to be rigid, but to understand who are they looking for, because they can't just go out with anybody and everybody. That's exhausting.
Yeah, totally agree with that. In your experience, what mindset or personal shift helps singles go from frustration to connection? And I'm specifically talking more about even in the dating process, right? You and I were having a conversation. There's a connection. So what kind of a connection is it? How do we deepen it? What if you say something that turns me off a little? How do I not just disappear from the conversation, but actually stay in the conversation, stay with you and kind of focus or retrain my mind to go, it's okay, I can dump them later. But I have to stay in the moment. Right. So how can we help singles who are frustrated, bring them to a point of connection? Maybe there's a tool or a mindset. What are your tools?
Yeah. First of all, proper rest, honestly. If you don't feel like you should go on that date, even if you're interested to meet the person, take a rain check. I mean, honestly, it's the same like networking. Like I've been to a million networking events. If I feel good and ready and I'm there to focus and there to, make connections, amazing. If I'm not, I shouldn't have gone to that networking event. It's the same with dating. If you don't feel like you can give yourself, if you can't, be present and have a good date, I would say don't even go. Like just take a rain check, obviously in a, respectful way. So that's number one. And also here's a tool. Come with some stories in your back pocket, relatable content. Listen more than you talk. Be present in the conversation. Obviously, put phones away, things like that. But it's okay if you tell the same story over and over again, because it's like seeing a Broadway play. They don't know. Right?
It's the first time they've heard it.
Mm-hmm. exactly.
It's so true. I once had a client who arrived early to a date and he was exhausted and he, kind of rolled his windows down a little bit, locked his door, and he took a power nap before the date. So he actually followed your advice.
Nice.
I think he woke up a little bit late, which was a mistake. So make sure you set like 3 alarms. That's my advice.
Come ready.
Yeah, exactly. Do you notice differences in approach or expectations between singles that are living in Israel versus abroad? You touched on it a little bit, but maybe tell us a little bit more also about American or European or other. Yeah, you gave me a little eyebrow like, ooh, I've got stories. What are some of these differences and challenges that we have between us?
I think in general, in the U.S. and North America, I think retaining a matchmaker is kind of a normal thing. It's known. People kind of, it's not weird or new or different. So I think people are more used to it. Here, it's very weird concept unless, like we touched on that before. And if it's
right,
not
if
like
you're in the
shop
religious
con-
community, it's normal to have a matchmaker. If you're in the secular community, it's like, matchmaker, what?
Right. Anybody can go to a chatuna and meet 100 single guys. It doesn't mean that's your guy. Yeah, exactly. So I think the concept of outsourcing a professional for love is different here. So that straight off the bat is different. Like most big cities, Miami, New York, LA, Tel Aviv, it is a little bit of a challenging dating scene because people have that who's next mentality. So I think you need to figure out, when are you ready to stop thinking of who's next? Look at the person in front of you.
I was recently on amazing advice. I was recently on the Olim and Tel Aviv podcast, and they asked me, and I want to ask you the same question: if you had to rank them, right? Where's the best place for a single to date? If we're talking about Tel Aviv, New York, Miami, LA, and any others that are on your roster.
Wow.
And why?
Okay. It also depends a little bit on, your personality and your vibe, I think people do love Tel Aviv for dating because there's an abundance of everyone here, which is exciting for dating. I think people that are from New York or from the East Coast, they want to stick there. So they tend to like that. Everybody, it's not just me. All the other matchmakers like to say Miami is a harder dating scene.
Why? Why is Miami challenging? Because somebody, one of my clients recently moved to Miami because it was going to be a better place to date with more options. It didn't work. It didn't vibe. He didn't fit in. And he's like, I got to go. And the people that are there, that I know that are there, they love it. But what do you find challenging about that scene?
Okay, so my other hub is Florida, so I also know the Florida kind of scene.
Right,
so I'm not just
right?
speaking out of nowhere. So Miami, Florida in general, and Miami, people have this mentality of are you a newcomer? Are you really sticking around Florida? So they kind of
because they get
you.
a lot of snowbirds and okay.
So they kind of make it it's like a hazing almost, are you really sticking around Florida?
Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't buy in unless you move there, live there, and love it. They don't buy in that you're actually going to stay there.
Yeah.
And so they don't exactly accept you and kind of let you into the inner circles.
That's it.
Ooh, that's a little bit tough.
Mm-hmm. Whereas I think here in Tel Aviv, they're you're new, I love you.
It's very true.
Yeah.
What's a memorable story where two people overcame maybe an initial mismatch or maybe a doubt about their compatibility? Have you had couples that, you have a faith and a belief in this match and they're looking at each other going, maybe, but then, oh my gosh, they overcame it?
Yes. And I'm trying to think of which one. I'm going to talk about this one about distance because that one really is a miraculous story. So there was, first of all, two people, a guy in Kansas City. That's not really a desirable, Kansas City. I don't know if that's
it's
really
not the popular
it's
place
not a popular
to be. Okay.
destination to move. So I had a woman who, an Israeli woman living in Germany and a Jewish American guy living in Kansas City, Missouri. And I introduced them. And I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to go. In my heart, I was like, they seem like a good match because they're both open. They both have this twinkle in their eye. They seem like a good match. And then I was like, but is she ever is she going to really want to move to Kansas City?
I mean, has she traveled around the States? Does she know the difference? Is Kansas City just as good as New York City, right?
Maybe. So what happened was once I introduced them, they decided to meet in Portugal.
An exotic trip together.
Right. So after, online dating, chatting, getting to know each other, they met in Portugal. Amazing. I get pictures. I'm like, ooh, this is going somewhere. And then a few, let's say months later, then I get a picture. She's going to go visit him in Kansas City. I'm like, this is promising. How exciting. If she likes Kansas City, bam.
Right.
Like, this is the thing, So she visited there. And then, they just kept like agreeing, and they kept being open, and they kept connecting, and they've been married 2 years.
Mazel tov.
She lives in Kansas City.
She did it. She actually picked up and moved to Kansas City.
Right.
It's nothing short of a miracle to overcome challenges like this.
It's amazing.
Distance is probably one of the largest, but when it's meant to be, like you said, like they met and it was easy, and then they went to another destination and it was easy. When you find, even though there's something that's difficult between you, when it becomes easier over time, it's the biggest blessing. Good for you for making a fabulous, fabulous match.
Thank you.
In what ways do you coach singles beyond just making an introduction? Do you help them present their best selves? Do you help them craft profiles, develop relationship skills?
Yes. So this is maybe news to you. So I have orchestrated, I have identified 8 elements that make like a great dater. And this is part of what I teach.
Ooh,
yeah.
You want to tell us some, or are they a secret?
No, I'll tell you. I want everybody to know these things.
Okay, good.
So number 1, have a good headshot.
Okay, good photo.
Yeah.
We got to have a good punam, a nice face. It's got to look good. Okay.
Right. You have to have the good headshot. Obviously the bio, whether I'm making it for you or you're making it for yourself, like have a good bio, because you want to make sure that you have, this goes to number 3, people to advocate for you.
Okay.
And
so
how can
dating profile, good photo, good profile, and now you're up to somebody who can advocate for you.
Yeah. Whether it's the Town Yentas, a professional matchmaker, the Rebbitzin, whoever, friends that have your best interest at heart.
Right.
Yeah, so those are some of the things. Also, I think people should have some go-to outfits. They should know what what feels good to wear, and their date night outfits. And if you don't have date night outfits, go see a stylist.
Go buy them.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Places to go. You should network. You should have places to go. You should know, figure out, if you love rock climbing and you're like, that's it, I'm a rock climber, like explore that. Like, I'm not going to say then now go learn how to parachute. Like, no, you could stick with what you love, but widen maybe where you do it. So for example, if you go rock climbing at the same place every day, I'll use yoga. It's a better example. So if you're like going to the same yoga studio every day, all the time, maybe go to a different yoga studio, or go to the same yoga studio, but at a different time. So you're going to start widening your networks or deepening them. I call it the Uno method, because you play Uno like Taki here, and you're like, it's either the same color or the same number. So you're either like
different. We have to do something different to get different results.
Right. You're either like deepening, the connections with the people or you're widening it to make new connections.
Okay. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay. And if anybody wants to know more, they're going to call you about that.
Great.
Tell me about intuition. What role does that play in your matchmaking process versus strategy, right? Some people, they go from the intuitive, they think it, they feel it, they make a match, versus, no, this is a smart match, and here's the reasons why. How do you balance those two in your work?
Yes. So I think from what you probably know about me, I'm a little bit vision board, but I'm a lot more like bullet points. So I do like to teach people on what to do and how to do it. But in terms of the intuitive nature, do you remember that conversation we had a long time ago about like face matches?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. That's right. That's not just intuitive. I think that's like a whole different category, which is like a visual, like, ooh, and you're like, but why does it make sense? You're like, I don't know, their face. It's their face, it's their soul, but I guess I need to get to know them to prove that it should actually be a good match.
Totally. But there's, as far as I know, hey, if someone wants to commission a study on face matches, great. But I don't think, it's intuitive. Like, I think, you, me, I don't know, it's not something everybody can do.
Not everybody sees it, and not everybody knows it or understands it.
Right. Like, I feel like we can look at people based on their bio, based on their life story, based on, many different bullet point factors and their face and say, I think this is going to work.
Yeah, so true. What piece of advice do you have for singles who are on the verge of giving up, but they're dreaming of finding their match? They just can't see it. They don't feel it. Every time they go out, it's always a failure. It's just not working. What words of comfort can you offer them, or wisdom?
I hear that. And it's painful. And I want to acknowledge that. It is painful when you so want to meet your person and they're not here yet. So I would say the first thing is to take a break. Just take a break. Like, whether it's there's no time, I can't give you an exact time frame. Just take a moment. If there's also, you need to figure out, like, why are you not getting the match that you want? Are you looking for somebody that wouldn't be looking for you? Evaluate that. There is someone for everyone, but if you're looking for somebody that's not looking for you back, maybe you need to adjust who you're looking for, or become that person that the person you want would want. So evaluate, take stock in who you are, what you're bringing to the table, take a break, work on stuff if you need to work on it, and then come back.
Okay, I like that. I think that it will strengthen somebody from the inside. And when they come back, hopefully you can have a smile on your face and your heart can feel a little bit happy as you re-enter the scene, because you nurtured the first half of your soulmate, which is you. Looking ahead, yeah, isn't that a good one? Looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of Jewish matchmaking? You've been in this industry, in the professional industry, for many years. You've collaborated with people. Where are we going and growing in this industry?
Wow. And you know this too, as devastating and horrible as October 7th was and is, it's just brought a new wave of, like, Jewish people wanting to marry Jewish people, which is amazing in and of itself. So even the secular, the just Jewish, they're coming to me saying, listen, I've dated many different kinds before. She has to be Jewish. So, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. So out of something devastating and horrible and soul-crushing, we're going to see more Judaism flourishing.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going from a soul-crushing moment to a soul-mating moment, where we are bringing Jewish singles together, and they want it just as much as we want it for them. Beautiful. Shana, will you let our followers know where they can find you and how they can reach you and what else you can offer to them?
Yeah, Lisa, thank you. So you can always find me on Shana Connects, Shana just spelled S-H-A-N-A, ShanaConnects.com. I'm on all socials. And yeah, people want to get to know what I do. Follow me on socials. I've been having a little bit of some unhinged, crazy videos lately, so it might be fun for people.
Ooh.
But yeah, I'm always open for strategy sessions, VIP matchmaking, date relationship coaching. And yeah, happy to meet people where they're at. And as you know, if for whatever reason I'm not the right person, I will refer them to who is. So I can be the first stop.
That's the best, because you want to make the right match, and the first match has to be between the two of you, and if it doesn't work, you pass them on. Yep. Also, you have a free database that allows people to just get connected to you, stay in your network, and if there's ever a match available, you'll make it. So I think that that's fantastic.
Totally.
Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your journey. I'm most inspired by your intentional approach and your heartfelt, deep caring for the Jewish people to make a difference and to build our Jewish community. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on the Jewish Matchmaker podcast. I'm Aliza Ben Shalom, and until next time, please remember, matches make families, families make communities, and communities change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Good Week Israel, the show where we recap for you some of the positive highlights that have been coming out of Israel from this week. I'm your host, Devo Klein, and coming up on today's show, the Arrow 3 makes its German debut. United Hatzalah honors heroes at this year's LA Gala. And after a nail-biting decision, Israel will participate in Eurovision 2026. Ask any military buff, what Israeli security is best known for, and they will probably say the Iron Dome, an impressive aerial defense system built to intercept missiles and drones from neighboring countries. Well, the Iron Dome may intercept short-range missiles, but the Chetz, or Arrow 3, is far more sophisticated with the ability to intercept long-range ballistic missiles. Well, this piece of technology is now being deployed in the European nation who stood firmly with Israel. They are, of course, Germany.
On Wednesday morning at an airbase in Schönewalde, Germany, the first of its kind ceremony was taking place. Germany became the very first European nation to deploy the Arrow 3 air defense system, engineered, built, and delivered by the State of Israel. The Arrow 3 is geared to intercept ballistic missiles as a counter to Moscow's growing threat. The Arrow 3 is one of Israel's most impressive air defense systems, operating at altitudes above 100 kilometers, which is well outside of Earth's atmosphere, and with a range of 2,400 kilometers, the stationary Arrow system stands out and overshadows shorter-range air systems. Marked with the Israel Aerospace Industries emblem, the sale of the Arrow 3 highlights the incredibly healthy arms trade between Israel and Germany despite a previously placed embargo, which the Israeli Director General of the Defense Ministry pointed out.
Despite occasional political disagreements, military and technological cooperation is the foundation of our strategic partnership, which will only continue to grow in the years ahead. I also welcome the removal of the arms embargo on various components. Such an act should never have been imposed on an ally fighting murderous Islamic terror.
According to the Israel Aerospace Industries, a number of countries have already expressed interest in purchasing the technology, since Arrow 3 helped to thwart Iran's missile attacks on Israel in April and October 2024.
Remember when I said that the Chetz 3 is more impressive than the Iron Dome? Well, if you enjoyed that, you will absolutely love this brand new aerial defense system, which is just weeks away from being ready to use in an operational setting, and it's a laser-based system. You have to check this out.
Meet the laser system that is changing the game. The Or Eitan should be fully operational within the coming weeks, so why does Israel need yet another aerial defense system? You may have heard of the Iron Dome, tasked with intercepting short-range rockets and mortars like the ones we see from Hamas and Hezbollah that fire at Israel. Or perhaps the David Sling system, which intercepts mid-range missiles inside the atmosphere, used to intercept Houthi or Iranian attacks. But there's one more. The Arrow's impressive technology detects long-range and high-altitude threats, such as long-range ballistic missiles and ICBMs outside of the atmosphere. As Israel faces a multi-front war from hostile neighbors, it is essential to possess these different systems. But there's one problem. Each interceptor can cost up to $50,000. So while the systems are impressive, they are extremely expensive. What if Israel could intercept aerial threats while saving financial resources? That is the mission that Rafael and Elbit Systems set out to solve. Fast forward, and we are getting the first ever laser beam, or Or Eitan. This system intercepts all types of aerial threats, ranging from simple mortars to UAVs to long-range ballistic missiles. The Iron Beam does it all. Israel is expected to field laser beam batteries across the country within weeks, thus being able to use them in operational settings very soon for the first time around the world. With regional tensions rising, this system will play a pivotal role in Israeli security, and it's pretty cool too.
United Hatzalah are holding their annual LA Gala and honoring exceptional heroes who have inspired us all. Have a look.
United Hatzalah, Israel's all-volunteer emergency response organization, is preparing for its Miami Gala coming up on December 17th. This year's event honors former Mossad Director Yossi Cohen, former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and Nova Festival survivor Bar Cooperstein. Joining us now is United Hatzalah founder Eli Beer. Thanks for joining, Eli.
Thanks for having me.
So, Eli, why were Yossi Cohen, Mike Pompeo, and Bar Cooperstein chosen as this year's honorees?
Well, we have a few more honorees, but they are one segment of hero honorees, people who devoted their life to protect others. And I'll explain. Yossi Cohen, we all remember one of the things he did. We all remember the pager operation that was started years before it actually happened. It actually started in the days. It started in the days that Yossi Cohen was the head of the Mossad. Yossi Cohen devoted his life for the security of Israel. Many of the things that he did is never going to be exposed. And one day we'll hear about them, maybe in the future, maybe very soon. We'll hear of them in different parts of the world. He protected not only Israel, he protected Jewish communities around the world. Yes, Jewish communities in Australia, in Brazil, in Mexico. And Mike Pompeo, who I love and I'm friendly with many years, him and his wife Susan are real lovers of Israel. You know, the essence of Judaism is recognizing the good, hakarat hatov. Mike Pompeo did so much, of course, for America, but he did so much for Israel. He put his life for many, many years as the head of the CIA, the head of the State Department, put his life to make sure that also Israel is protected. Not only the United States is protected. It's still on the top of his mind. So I think recognizing these two heroes, Yossi Cohen and Mike Pompeo, who worked together, by the way, best friends for many, many years, and they still are best friends, together with a young boy, Bar Cooperstein.
Who was a former hostage.
Former hostage, but people only think of former hostage. He is a total hero, like a real true hero. On October 7th, he was there to protect people. He was there as a security guard. He was there as an EMT. His father, who I know for many years, Tala, was a volunteer of United Hatzalah. And 5 years ago, he was driving an ambucycle to save a 4-year-old child who was not breathing. And while he was driving to save this little girl who was not breathing, running to save her life, someone crashed into his ambucycle, the United Hatzalah ambucycle, and he was left paralyzed for the rest of his life. He cannot walk, he cannot talk.
Wow.
And the day of October 7th, when his son was actually in the Nova Festival saving lives, he did not run away. He stayed there. He was protecting people. He rescued people. He hit people. And then he was in the Hamas for hours. Eventually, he was caught by the Hamas and he was tortured for 738 days. So he, together with his two other heroes, are going to be honored in our gala. And I think it's going to be incredible, hakarat hatov, recognizing the good to all three of them.
Now, you're launching a major mass casualty incident training campaign. Why now, and what are the goals of this campaign?
Well, if you think about what Bar Cooperstein actually did on October 7th in the Nova Festival, he had to decide. He was one of the only EMTs there. He had to decide between hundreds of people. Who do you treat first? Who do you treat? The one who's yelling the most, or the one who has the most blood, the one who's not yelling, the one who's unconscious? We as EMTs, as paramedics, and even doctors, we need training for triage. God forbid another event like this happens, or it could be a natural disaster. It could be an earthquake. It could be a lot of different fires or many other things where people injured. We had the Meron tragedy. All these terrible incidents, you need to have training for the volunteers. We took upon ourselves that 2026 will be the year of training for mass casualty incidents. Every volunteer of ours should know what to do when he has 100 injured people in front of him. And he should know, or she should know, that who you run first, not the one who's yelling first, not the one who's that. You should know what to do. It's a very complex training. And it's not only theory, it's also actually giving them the feeling. We're going to put them in places where they have people screaming and yelling and smell of flesh and fire and noises of bombs. And that's where they're going to have the environment of training. And I think that's going to benefit Israel tremendously.
Sounds really tough, but super important. And so is your work. Eli Beer, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And World Emunah are gearing religious women with the tools, the network, and the vision to lead. Have a look.
Amuna has spent 90 years identifying the most urgent needs in Israeli society and stepping in where it matters most. From children's homes to trauma therapy centers, Amuna has always focused on strengthening Israeli families and communities. The Rishonot program grew out of that same mission, empowering religious women with the tools, networks, and vision to lead. ILTV asked Avital Indig how she first became involved.
So I started with one of the first programs, so it wasn't like now where everyone knows about it and all, you tell your friends you have to go there, and so for me it was different.
She explained that the program has three main goals, beginning with the deep, on-the-ground understanding of Israeli society.
The first one is for us to get to know the challenges of the Israeli people. So it's a journey that we take. They take us from place to place geographically, and we meet the people and we talk about all the challenges and difficulties, and we get inspired by the people of Israel.
The second goal is about personal growth and leadership.
The second goal is to empower yourself and to know yourself and to know your strengths and weaknesses and to give you the feeling that the sky's the limit.
But for Avital, the third goal, the network, may be the most powerful. Rishonot creates a mission-driven sisterhood where women from diverse backgrounds unite around shared values, trust, and a genuine desire to strengthen Israeli society. It's a community that not only supports one another, but actively mobilizes around each woman's goals and initiatives, turning personal leadership into collective impact.
It's more of a spider web even. It's not just a network, because we have each other's back and we help each other, and it makes you so much more stronger to be a part of this amazing network.
That sense of sisterhood has created a unique atmosphere among the women.
I've never seen anything like it. The sisterhood that is there, it's like this special bond.
One moment especially stayed with her, an overnight retreat where participants shared the most intimate parts of their lives.
Every girl in the program had to talk about important moments in her life, and made us so much more connected to each other. It was an amazing night.
Today, after October 7th, programs like Rishonot feel more essential than ever.
I think it's essential for everyone in the world, but especially now it's such challenging times right now. It's different when you get together with women and you have the space and you have the time to process together.
For Amuna, leadership begins with connection to each other, to community, and to the future of the State of Israel.
And let's hear once again from Yael Eckstein of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. She's going to fill us in on everything the fellowship has been up to.
Shalom, my friends from here in Israel. I'm Yael Eckstein, and here are 2 fellowship projects that you should know about this week. Number 1, Tomer and Dolev are new parents, and their baby came in a very unexpected way. They live in a small apartment right outside of Jerusalem, and at 25 weeks, suddenly she felt extreme pain in her stomach. She was rushed to the hospital, and immediately they realized that she needed life-saving medical intervention. The fellowship was there for them when the baby was in NICU to provide physical, emotional, and financial support, and we continue to be there for them today. Number 2, the fellowship recently opened a resilience center in Sdot Negev. This is the area right on the border with the Gaza Strip. All of the Israeli residents there are experiencing